What's up, y'all? This is Wheezy, and if you enjoy this content, please remember to like and share. If you really enjoy it, please feel free to leave a review. Sending love to each and one of y'all. What's up, friends? Happy Sunday. Hope everyone is doing rather exquisite. Thank you guys for joining me on this very fabulous and fantastic Sunday from Florida with love. Want to give a shout out to the Australian listeners. Got a few of you that leave comments. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to, of course, the lovely UK listeners that tune in every damn week. Shout out to the Canadian listeners. There's quite a few of y'all as well. And can't forget the Irish. Hell yeah. And everyone that listens out here in the States. Shout out to each one of y'all, man. Truly grateful for all the awesome people that listen. I don't call you guys followers. If you guys vibe with me, we are friends. Now, if you talk shit about me, we are not friends. You are a follower. And we'll leave it at that. John will be joining me here very soon, and we will be going over the Epstein stuff. John Brisson, it's not because he's my friend. I love the guy. We view things in a lot of the same ways. But as far as Epstein stuff, he knows his shit. We have some differences when it comes to religion, for example. But as I've stated before, I don't want an echo chamber. You know, I know some people get mad at me because I'll talk to this person. I got someone saying, I love you, Wheezy, but I don't like John. I don't care. I'm going to talk to who I want to talk to. I don't care who it is. And I'm not asking you guys to vibe with my guests either, you know. But John is genuinely a buddy of mine. We view religion in polar opposite ways, but everything else we vibe with, man. And when it comes to Epstein stuff, he does his research. He knows what the hell he's talking about. And that's why I'm excited to have him on and break down what's been happening. A lot of these things that we're going to cover today are things that him and we were both shouting from the rooftops for many years now. When I first started my show, if some of you probably have, especially the hardcore listeners that have gone back and listened to the back catalog, some of my early episodes was talking shit about Trump. And even back then, people was telling me, look, Wheezy, I like most of the stuff you say, but don't go after Trump. Trump is here to drain the swamp. He's here to turn the government upside down, root out all the pedos. And I held my ground. I go, nah, man. When you have someone that had to settle a Ponzi scheme lawsuit in Trump University for $20 million, that's your hero? That's who you're going to put your faith on? Hell no. So many years ago, I put my foot down. I put my line in the sand. I go, I ain't falling for this shit. I view all politicians as corrupt. Doesn't matter if it's on the left or the right. And I know that stings some people, and I don't care. I could only be myself. And so it sucks, but it's also satisfying to a degree that I've been vindicated. All the stuff that I had been saying about Trump, even people that were somewhat skeptical of Trump were saying, Wheezy, I don't like Trump either, but that's probably a bridge too far. Making these accusations of Trump and Epstein. And I go, hell no. I have every damn rhyme and reason for the views that I have on Trump. He's a sleazebag. Always has been a sleazebag. He was just given a makeover via Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon is pretty much the architect of the MAGA movement. Here you go, Trumpy. Put on this red hat, put on some jeans. You're good to go, homie. And a lot of people bought that shit. And I kept telling these MAGAs, Steve Bannon is your guy? Steve Bannon, who was best friends with Epstein as well? That is your guy? What in the hell am I missing here? Oh, no, but you don't understand, Wheezy. Trump is going to root out the pedophiles. He's going to stop child trafficking. I'm like, this is like the fox guarding the hen house. What are you talking about? And I feel vindicated. A lot of these things that I had been saying for many years can now be, I guess you can say, corroborated, verified. And I want to discuss this when John comes back a little further, because now that a lot of this stuff has been corroborated, now what? Why are we hearing this now? What is going on? Are we being psyoped with this new information? And that's just the way my brain works. So for those that may have been out of the loop as to what has been going on this week, let's read an article by a left-wing rag, NPR. And again, if you are new to me, it's not because I'm a lefty or any of that. No. You can get some truth bombs from the left and the right. You got to sift through it, got to put it through the filters and see things for what they are. But let's see what the mainstream is talking about. This from NPR by Shannon Bond from November 15th, 2025. Right-wing media shrugs off latest Epstein document release. What do thousands of pages of newly released material reveal about the well-documented relationship between convicted sex offender Jeff Epstein and President Donald Trump? Not much of anything, according to some of the right-wing influencers who have long been clamoring for the government to release more information about Epstein and his crimes. To me, these are nothing burgers, if they're even real. Pro-Trump podcaster John Harold said on his Badlands Media Rumble live stream on Wednesday. Harold gained an audience in the wake of 2020 election after spreading QAnon adjacent conspiracy theories. We're going to touch on QAnon later on. Another psyop to discredit serious inquiries into Trump being part of the goddamn swamp himself. Continuing on. His fellow Badlands media personality, Brian Lupo, took a slightly different view on his own live stream this week. The emails didn't exactly say nothing, he claimed, but they show that Trump was informing on Epstein and his associate Ghislaine Maxwell, who is serving a 20-year prison term for helping Epstein sexually abuse underage girls. And this is what the article is saying. Epstein died by suicide while in jail during his first Trump administration. Yeah. Bullshit. Continuing on. My take on this, Epstein and Maxwell are trying to figure out who's a mole or a rat or an informant in their circle of friends, Lupo said, referring to an email in which Epstein called a dog that didn't bark. The White House has denied that Trump was an informant. This cracks me up. Epstein looms large for many conspiracy theorists, including QAnon believers. He's seen as a prime example of the satanic cabal of pedophiles they believe are entrenched among the world's most powerful people. QAnon adherents think Donald Trump is destined to defeat the cabal. Trump has acknowledged he and Epstein were once friendly, but fell out decades ago. He's denied any knowledge of Epstein's trafficking or of underage girls. While one of the newly released emails suggests Trump did know about Epstein's behavior, some right-wing media figures say the new disclosures prove Trump did nothing wrong. He didn't do nothing, nothing wrong. They're claiming it's a hoax. They're claiming that the Democrats are cherry picking the things that make Trump look at his worst, and that these things prove that he didn't actually do anything wrong, and that he's not a criminal, and that he was actually gathering information for FBI on Epstein, said Mike Rothschild, an independent journalist and author who has written extensively about conspiracy theories and QAnon. He said that is very different from the song they were singing a few years before that, which is that if we just bring down Epstein ring, all of the Democrats are going down with him. Bullshit. People like me have been saying this Epstein stuff wasn't going to come out because it involves people on both sides. So as I'm reading this article to you, you can see the bullshit narrative, this as well as you can see the psyop tentacles even through this article, which is supposed to tell us what's going on with the latest Epstein emails. Continuing on, many prominent Democrats are shown communicating with Epstein in the newly released emails. Still, another common thread on the right is that the release is a distraction by Democrats. They think that the Epstein thing is something that is going to distract you from their failures, although the Epstein thing, all it's really doing is exposing more Democrat failures. Vince Conglianese, a radio host and editorial director of the Daily Caller, said on his Rumble live stream on Thursday. That echoes President Trump's True Social post accusing Democrats of using Epstein to deflect from the fallout over the government shutdown. On Friday, he called on the Justice Department to investigate Democrats mentioned in the emails. Attorney General Pam Bondi said she was appointing a federal prosecutor to lead a probe. Meanwhile, some prominent influencers and conservative media outlets are essentially ignoring this week's release of documents. They already know that their fans are on board 100% with whatever Trump does, Rothschilds said. There's nothing for them here. At the same time, the emails are fueling new speculation on both the right and the left as people race to interpret Epstein's often cryptic language. To Rothschilds, that is a fool's errand. Jeffrey Epstein was like not the most trustworthy person. You are taking him at his word because you want to believe him when he says things that are either good about Trump or bad about Trump, he said. It's absolutely maddening, circular discourse, and it gets us absolutely nowhere. I actually kind of believe I kind of vibe with that last sentiment. People are going to take the shit they want to go with and ignore the other shit that counters what they already value. And just as I thought, John, I checked my phone because I was like, fuck, I don't think I sent John the StreamYard link. If you're listening, dude, check your gosh darn it. Your X. I'm going to send it to you right now. Gosh darn it. I tell you what. The hell, dude. Okay. I just sent it to you on X, bro. Check it out. Sorry about that. Check X. Yeah, it just barely dawned on me. I'm like, damn it, I don't think I sent it over to him. So he'll be joining me here very, very shortly. And I have a feeling once John hits it, this is going to be a banger of a show. He knows a lot. I know some. I don't know as much as he does, but I know quite a bit. I know my fair share of Epstein stuff. This is what actually one of the reasons why I started my podcast 6 years ago. Following this Epstein stuff, and I was like, man, how the hell is it that I'm seeing this and no one else is seeing it? And so that's why I started doing my podcast and started giving my own takes. I started shit talking Trump when I first started my podcast because no one else was doing it. Even someone whose work I respect, I suppose, like Whitney Webb, she wouldn't talk nothing about Trump and Epstein. And I'm like, well, if she's not doing it, I'm going to do it. And that's why I started, as small as my podcast was. And we now have Mr. Johnny Brisson. What's up, my dog?
What's up, Wheezy? Apologize for being late. And if I drop out, I'm going to have to reset my router and modem again. I've been having internet issues with Spectrum, which is why some people have been listening to my streams, especially when I was interviewing Paul the other night. It completely went down. So I have no idea what that's about. I'm just going to chalk it up to Spectrum being a horrible internet service and not to any other shenanigans. Who knows? But glad to be here, Wheezy. Sorry that I was late. I apologize.
Dude, don't apologize, man. You're my dog, man. I completely get it. Yeah. I don't know if you caught the very beginning, but
yes, I was listening to what you were saying.
Yeah, I gave you a little introduction, man. And as an Epstein researcher, you know what the hell you're talking about. And I trust you. There's other people out there that call themselves Epstein researchers. Can't even say Epstein right. They say Epstein. Complete horseshit, man. This is my man, Johnny Brisson, who has done extensive research. For those that may be hearing about you for the first time, give us a little intro.
Yeah, I am a board again investigative journalist. We've read the documents YouTube channel for years. I have studied Epstein and Trump's relationship and have interviewed various people about it, and have been researching it for many years, as well as Accounts for National Policy, which is like the right-wing version of the CFR. And I'm currently writing a book on the Finders operation, which will hopefully be eventually be released sometime, even though I've been writing it for 5 years. So me and Weezy are both ITPs. I apologize for that. It takes me forever to do something. That's how I know that Stephen King had ghostwriters, because there's no way he could have written as long as books as he did in their length and got as many done in the time that he did, because he's the same personality type as you and I, and I seriously doubt that. But definitely glad to be here. So,
absolutely, man. It's been a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months since we last did a show, and we were due. And what better way to reunite with this week of Epstein bonanza, man? All kinds of madness, and we're gonna break it down. Over 20,000 emails allegedly were released, with many more allegedly due to come out. And I want to focus the show today. Last time we did a show called Unmasking MAGA, I believe, and it was a fire show. Really, really tons of great feedback. But if at this point you are still MAGA, I don't know what the hell. I don't know what you're waiting for, man. I mean, the fact that MAGA voted for the Epstein, I mean, part of the reasons why they voted for Trump was to release the Epstein files, bring down Epstein, bring down the cabal. And now Trump is making every goddamn excuse to not release more information on his best friend, his former best friend. This isn't conjecture. This is a fact that a lot of MAGAs, for whatever reason, can't still accept it. I've been watching on X a lot of these MAGA influencers doing apologetics and doing terrible at it. They are getting ratioed as they try to backpedal for the Trump administration and their handling of the Epstein stuff. But what has happened, for those that may have missed it, a quick recap of what happened this week?
Yeah, so the Democrat House Oversight Committee released a lot of emails. Have not gone through them all, obviously. We'll talk about some of the more important ones today and the narratives that have been going around it, but they released what would be a good chunk of these so-called Epstein files, if you even want to call it that. All right. So these are emails, that Epstein had with Ghislaine Maxwell, that or emails that Epstein had with Stephen Bannon, from Council for National Policy member. Emails that he had with his own brother, Mark Epstein. Emails that he had with Michael Wolff, who's written a lot of expose Trump novels, who I am not a fan of at all either, and don't think he's our guy either. And we'll talk more about why that is later. And just various people that Epstein had interacted with, and majority of the emails have Donald Trump's name in them, among other people like Bill Clinton. And so we have Epstein interacting with various Mockingbird news agency people, various heads of state, and even disseminating out talking points to congressmen and women as well too. I mean, it shows the control that Jeffrey Epstein had, or at least his nexus, because I think Epstein was lower. I think Ghislaine Maxwell was probably higher. So I think it probably went Epstein, Ghislaine, then people like Lex Wexner and Ehud Barak, right? So probably up here further. And we really don't know who's actually further than that. It's the same way I look at the Franklin scandal, where you have Lawrence C. King, and then above him, we have Craig Spence. Okay. So I think Jeffrey Epstein was the lower rung part of the Epstein pedophile nexus. And I think that though he had some blackmail and had some power, supposedly, allegedly, and we're going to talk about all the narratives, because ultimately, Wheezy, and I know you agree with me on this, ultimately, whether these emails could ever truly be substantiated or not, right? We really can't, to be fair. But let's say that, whether they are real legit or they are not, okay, it is a choose your own adventure for whatever part of the right left paradigm you're on. Okay. If you're MAGA, well, the so-called victim that was outed in the emails that Donald Trump spent time with was Virginia Roberts Giuffre, and you and I are going to talk about that in depth with our knowledge of Virginia Roberts Giuffre. Okay. And then they also have, Epstein in his emails, just like Ghislaine Maxwell, when she gave testimony to the Trump administration Department of Justice, she was like, we didn't really do anything. Epstein really didn't do anything. Trump never saw him do anything, right? Well, in these emails, Epstein says all these horrible things about Trump, which are true, and alludes to Trump being a pedophile, right? But then again, there's some emails where he said he never did anything. And so right then and there for MAGA, that's enough for them to spin it. You have Michael Wolff, conspiracy with Epstein to blackmail Trump, right? Which is enough to get them to not look at it at all and think that Trump's not guilty at all, right? Which means it could go that way. It could be spun that way. Now, why? Because, think if you were Trump, and you were the people behind Trump, right? If you want him to remain in power and not get rid of him, right? You would think that you would have had him up there, saying that's always a Democrat hoax. I never had anything to do with it, which he's kind of saying, but he's not. At the same time, he gets mad at everybody else, and he kind of like does as he pleases and kind of like goes off the so-called cuff, right? And kind of like weaves all in these narratives in where he could have been blaming them the whole time that this wasn't real, right? But he hasn't been doing that. Or you could have them actually eventually have this avalanche of information come out, and eventually he has to step down. He's impeached or whatever. They put in J.D. Vance, which is Peter Thiel's, boy who he's backed, right? But however, Peter Thiel was in a lot of these emails as well too, and then you also have Israel and the Mossad nexus of Epstein through the controlled noticing being exposed as well too through all this. So again, it could go that way. And then the left, you have, a lot of emails really going after the Clintons and the Clinton Foundation and Epstein's connections to the Clinton Foundation and a whole power nexus and Epstein interacting with Democratic, Congress people to give them talking points and stuff like that. Really showing that that side is just as involved as much as Epstein as the right side is. So again, it's whomever you want to look at and whatever you want to look at dictates what you want to believe with all this information that has come out. It's a choose your own adventure, literally, for Epstein. And the thing is it's going to be very difficult to get down to the truth. Now, I believe that Jeffrey Epstein is a pedophile. I believe Ghislaine Maxwell is a pedophile. I believe Lex Wexner is a pedophile. I believe Donald Trump's a pedophile. I believe Bill Clinton's a pedophile, right? But again, are we ever truly going to get any smoking gun evidence presented to us for sure that this is the case? Or is this some narrative that they're spinning? You understand what I'm saying? Am I making any sense to you, man, of how we both look at these things to be true, but at the same time, very skeptical of all these things as well?
Yeah, that's what I said. I go, these are things that I had been shouting from the rooftops for years now. And now some of these things can quote unquote be, I guess you can say I've been vindicated when people thought I was loony for even suggesting these things. But now I'm like, it's kind of like the UFO stuff. When I was a kid, I wanted to believe. Then the government started promoting UFOs. Like, I don't believe anymore. And now that the government is kind of putting these things out, my skepticism enters. I'm like, all right, well, I'm kind of vindicated in a sense, but I still don't trust it. Why are we hearing this? What is really going on? And that's what I'm trying to figure out. What if this is another psyop after another psyop? And one thing I want to tell people, you have to get off of the left-right paradigm nonsense. When I first started questioning the government, I still had those left-leaning feelings. And so when the Epstein news, the news came out that he was getting arrested, I was already questioning the government, but I was like, damn, this gives me hope. Maybe the left is gonna shape things up, and they're actually gonna arrest Epstein. And I kept saying when Trump was running, if the Democrats, man, I was rooting for the Democrats because I had this visceral reaction for Trump. I go, all the Democrats need to do is bring up Epstein and they win. They're going to win. That's all they got to do. And I was just, this is my stupid way of thinking. In retrospect, that's how idiotic I was with this left-right nonsense. You're going to see left-wingers be vocal. We need to release the Epstein files. Don't trust any one of these clowns. I can't reiterate that enough, because you're going to fall into this constant left, right limbo. And it doesn't do any good. And so what I'm being cautious right now is, are we being psyoped with all these little drops, with all these new releases coming out? And if I'm being honest, yeah, man, I'm skeptical, because there's some very salacious stuff that has come out, and we're gonna go over some of these more salacious bits for sure. And just because I don't like Trump and I have this visceral reaction to Trump, does that make these other things true? No, it doesn't. So you have to constantly be, have your head on a swivel, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. So let me share my screen. If you want to, we can start looking through this stuff. So let's see here. That should be the first. Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of what we named the show, or what you named the show, should I say? Not we, the show that we're on together. So this was the email that has been going around. I mean, most people know about this. Okay. This is what I'm hearing from the people in my own personal life. They're making
Some
jokes
people
about
know.
this.
Well, let me interject real quick. Some people know about this. I was talking to someone special the other day and brought this up, and she about like spit out her drink. So some people will be hearing this for the very first time.
Maybe it's made mainstream. I know that much because I had normies in my own personal life. I hate using the word normie, but you know what I mean. Just average people.
Yeah.
It's talking about this, and it's made jokes and stuff like that, and it's making its rounds. Even so, that my son's teenage friends are making jokes about this. Okay, even though I told them to stop it, but they are. So this is definitely getting some traction, and this is definitely getting around. Okay, so we have an email between Jeffrey Epstein and his brother Mark Epstein. Okay, so it reads, "How are you doing?" This is March 19th, 2018. Mark Epstein wrote to Jeffrey. "How are you doing? A while back, you mentioned that you're pre-diabetic. Has anything changed with that? What is your boy Donald up to now?" Right. And then Jeffrey Epstein says, "All good." I guess he's talking about with him being pre-diabetic, right? "Bannon is with me." So Stephen Ketamine Bannon is with Jeffrey Epstein at the time. And supposedly Bannon's interviewed Epstein for so many untold hours and still has not released his documentary on Epstein yet called Monster. Okay. Then Mark goes, "Ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba." Not to be, I guess I could have said it nicer. Sorry about that. But yes.
No, don't apologize, man. That's exactly what the email says.
And then Jeffrey Epstein goes, "And I thought I had Thesaurus." We'll get to that maybe in a minute. And then Mark Epstein says, "You and your boy Donny can make a remake of the movie Get Hard." And then Jeffrey Epstein means, "You mean Donny T." And then Mark Epstein says, "I'd rather be in Donny D's shoes." Okay. So first of all, what? Huh? All right.
What is going on here?
Something that I've discussed a lot, and a lot of people don't want to believe me, is I believe that Roy Cohn groomed Donald Trump and had a homosexual relationship with Donald Trump. You know, there's a picture that I might be able to see if I can bring it up.
I'm gonna bring it up. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you can bring it up. No, go ahead. Of Donald Trump dressed in a Roman centurion outfit with Roy Cohn at a Studio 54 party. Okay. As well as one time, and dude, I cannot find it. Me and George from cavdev.org have looked for hours. You're just gonna have to take my word on this. I remember reading this book that had this excerpt that I found discussing that Roy Cohn had a real estate developer who was blonde and in his 20s, half naked on his yacht. Okay.
Yikes.
And I cannot find it again for the life of me. But I have messages of me and George talking about it, discussing it, and then, you know, me and him trying to find it and not being able to find it. Now, I believe that person was Donald Trump. Okay. Then when Roy Cohn was diagnosed with HIV that later became AIDS that he later died from, supposedly, allegedly. Okay. Donald cut off all contact with him, and Roy Cohn was still living at Trump Tower penniless, while Trump was still giving him the money enough to live, but didn't want to have anything to do with him or talk with him. Now, to me, that I would believe during the HIV AIDS crises with Fauci at the head of that during the 80s, right? My guess is he was upset that he thought that Roy Cohn could have given him HIV, right? And that's what caused the rift between them, because we really have no tell between them of truly what the rift between them was. Okay. So it's my belief that Donald Trump is bisexual. Thoughts, Weezy?
Yeah. So for those audio listeners, go to timestamp 34 minutes and you will see a picture of Roy Cohn with Donald Trump, the young twink Spartan soldier. So some of you, I've showed this image quite a few times already, but some of you may be seeing this for the first time. This guy right here on the right is DJT, 47th president of the United States. So this image that Donald Trump puts on a red MAGA hat and jeans and like, yeah, America. It doesn't really coalesce with this other vibe. So this is important because a lot of people will say, "Oh, you guys are off base. You guys are out of line. Donald Trump is all man." This picture right here from Studio 54.
Is he all man? What is he?
Yeah, man, maybe power bottom, man. Who the hell knows? Oof. But so one thing, and I did a couple shows as well with my other buddy, 7Cs, and one thing that we can't miss or miss sight of. How curious is it that Roy Cohn was super close to Donald Trump, and Roy Cohn, a notorious pedophile, just a nefarious character, and then a couple decades later, he's super close friends with another notorious pedophile, Jeff Epstein. What are the freaking odds, man? Come on, man. Like, there's going to be people that are still going to be scoffing. Oh, you guys, that's a bridge too far. That's a bridge too far. So it doesn't matter what we say. It doesn't matter what evidence we present. They're still going to hold on to their little fairy tale that Trump is just a good old-fashioned American man, America first, blah, blah, blah. And there's really no use in presenting any further evidence. They're going to latch on to that no matter what.
And again, we have the mention of blackmail for Putin, right? We have blackmail for Putin and probably blackmail for Bibi Netanyahu. So blackmail with Trump from Israel and blackmail with Trump with Russia throughout all of these Epstein emails. And of course, I'm going to butcher the Yiddish pronunciation of this word. Tsuris in Yiddish means trouble. So Jeffrey Epstein says, he goes, ask him if Putin has photos of Trump blowing Bubba. And Jeffrey Epstein goes, and I thought I had trouble. So, now this was made a joke. It's being pushed as a joke throughout social media. There was another joke. Oh, dear Lord, I don't even want to repeat this, where people were going around saying that Ghislaine Maxwell had a horse named Bubba.
Yes.
It's not true, to my knowledge. That I could
I tried here. I was doing further research on it. It is unverified.
Yes.
So it hasn't been deemed false completely, but it also hasn't been verified.
Correct.
So to me, that's interesting as well. So you can't completely write it off 100%.
Correct. Agreed. You can't. And then, of course, what I sent you immediately right afterwards was a statement from Mark Epstein, which should make us all giggle. Okay. So I'm going to read this one. For immediate release, statement from Mark Epstein regarding Bubba reference in recent released emails, which Bubba, by the way, me living here in the South, that was the main nickname that was used for Bill Clinton here in the South. Okay. Like the moment I read Bubba, I knew ultimately that was talking about Bill Clinton because I'm from the South. I heard my father say it, who actually was, all intents and purposes, somewhat of he was conservative socially, but fiscally Democrat, but he was no fan of Bill Clinton, but he used to call him Bubba. My grandfather used to call him Bubba. That was always a code name for Bill Clinton. Okay. It's like with Don, you have Teflon Don, right? For Donald Trump.
I don't know about no Teflon Don based on the picture I have on the screen right now.
Yes. So let me finish reading this. So, statement from Mark Epstein regarding Bubba reference in recently released emails. In the light of recent speculations surrounding the release of internal emails related to the Jeffrey Epstein case, Mark Epstein issues the following statement to clarify the point that has been misinterpreted in public discussion. Recent emails from 2018 between my brother and me were made public. They were simply part of a humorous private exchange between two brothers and were never meant for public release or to be interpreted as serious remarks. For the evidence of avoidance of doubt, the reference to Bubba in his correspondence is not in any way a reference to former President Bill Clinton. Any attempt to conflate this reference with Bill Clinton or to read sweeping implications into them misrepresents both the purpose and the tone of the original correspondence. I want to be absolutely clear on this point so the public record is not distorted, and so the speculation does not unfairly implicate people who are not actually being referenced in these communications. So pause there for a moment. One, I could tell Mark Epstein's lying about this. Now, you might be asking yourself, John, how and why? Well, first, he says it's a joke. And the second, he goes, it wasn't about Bill Clinton. It can't be both. So what Bubba, you don't give me a Bubba you were referring to, Mark. You don't give me the Bubba you were referring to in this email. Now, if the whole thing was, it was a joke between brothers, fine. I get that. I understand that. But that's how you know that it's likely about Bill Clinton, because he messes up his own statement here.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, my thoughts is, under what context are you talking about a Donny blowing a dude named Bubba? You know what I mean? Like, what other context is there to make out of that? I can't think of any other context. And who knows, maybe perhaps perhaps
I was gonna
perhaps this is the version of Bubba that Donny coalesced around,
wearing the blue dress, right? I mean, you also have the picture of him when they went golfing, right? In the video of him like touching Bill Clinton's like stomach and love handles, right? I mean, you could even show the full video. And I know the MAGA people were like, well, you're just taking that one still out of context. I'm like, no, you could go watch the whole video for yourself. The Clintons and Trump were like this. Okay. We're like this. All right. It's not a hop, skip, and a jump to think as degenerate as all these people are, as degenerate as Epstein is, degenerate as Ghislaine Maxwell is. Ghislaine Maxwell was molesting girls. She was by herself. As degenerate as Trump is, degenerate as Bill Clinton is, that Trump and Bill Clinton would not have gotten together. I'm sorry. Out of all that, now you could argue that the evidence that we've all showed is all circumstantial. We really can't prove it. I understand that, but man, don't lie to yourself. These people are morally bankrupt and corrupt. You don't think this wouldn't happen?
Yeah. So this was my own little boots on the ground research that I want to hammer. I've shown it before, but I've been getting new listeners, new followers, and so maybe some of y'all missed this. But last year, around this time of year, I went over to the east coast of Florida, to Miami. We had a hurricane coming. I live on the West Coast, and the hurricane was hitting up the West Coast, so we went over to Miami. Before we went back home, I wanted to stop by Mar-a-Lago, and I wanted to go to Epstein's house. I had heard that Epstein lived extremely close to Mar-a-Lago. And I was like, man, I want to see this. I want to feel this for myself. So here's a map. There's West Palm Beach. I live over here on the opposite end. So we came down to Miami. Then I go, before I head back home over here, I want to go to West Palm Beach. So went to West Palm Beach. And let's see. Gosh darn it. I must have lost it. Okay. So I went over to Mar-a-Lago in West Palm Beach. So there we go. We're going to zoom in. Here's it's a little 2-lane road. It's not a huge road, 2-lane road that crosses you over the bridge. And as soon as you get over the bridge, there's a roundabout. You pass Mar-a-Lago, Secret Service, here, all over through the property. This is Mar-a-Lago, okay? Epstein lived on Brio Way, okay? Boom, boom. These are all walking distance. This is all walking distance. See that little mark? That's Epstein's.
Mm-hmm.
Epstein, there's El Brio Way. This was his house. And I put it on my X. I'll see when next time you give a little spiel, I'll pull up my little visit down here. But his house is right here, waterfront property on the very end of Brio Way. They knocked it down. And on the video I'll show you, when I was there last year, they built a new house, and his original house number is no longer it's no longer 360. Or I'm sorry, I think it was 308 was the original number. It was something different. And they changed the home address. The only thing I could think about is the people buying this property are probably they don't want to get people continually, coming down this dead end, because when we were there was other people there, the people that were in the know of Epstein's address. The point of this little map session here, look at this. This is a 20-25 minute walk at most from Mar-a-Lago. As we get deeper into our conversation tonight on Epstein and Trump, keep this in the back of your mind, because a lot of people don't really talk about this. I'm talking about it because I was there. I drove it. I have video footage of me going down this road. It's a 25-minute walk from Mar-a-Lago to Epstein's. When you realize, when you understand that their friendship was super close, as Michael Wolff has said, these guys were extremely, extremely close to each other. Jeff Epstein, one of the world's most notorious pedophiles ever, and Donald Trump, the current president of the United States, were best friends, living within walking distance of each other. Anyone trying to minimize their relationship, anyone trying to use the excuse, well, Trump didn't know. He kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. And they continue to recycle this worn-out nonsense to try to put a wedge, try to put distance between these two. Show them this goddamn map. Walking distance from Epstein's to Mar-a-Lago. So I just wanted to make that little thing, so as we continue on with the conversation, and if doubts want to creep in, look how close these two BFFs lived from each other.
And you know what place was on that same island? It's a little bit further up north. It's not really in walking distance, but enough in driving distance. The Kennedy Mansion, La Curita, where RFK Jr. would frequently go from there to Jeffrey Epstein's Palm Beach estate on Brillo Way.
Yeah. That little segment of real estate right there is very pricey. I mean, when you get off the bridge, off of that, before you get to Mar-a-Lago, when you cross from West Palm over, it's kind of ghetto. It's kind of run down. And if we believe the official stories on Epstein, that's where they recruited a lot of these poor girls. So Florida is like that. You go to other places and you have vast differences between the wealthy and the poor. Not in Florida. You could have some multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar properties, and within walking distance is some little shanty town, some little mobile home park. That's how Florida rolls. So when you cross over the bridge that leads into Mar-a-Lago, just over the bridge, a couple of minutes away, you now have the hood, for lack of a better term. You have these underprivileged women, young women. I wouldn't even call them young women, young girls, little girls that were exploited by the Epstein enterprise. And once we get into the Virginia Giuffre, keep that in mind. This is where they came from the hood, nearby. It wasn't miles away. It wasn't a boat ride away. It was none of that. It was right there across the bridge that leads you into Mar-a-Lago, a couple of minutes away.
Yeah.
So, you got any thoughts? I'm going to pull up that little footage while you give some thoughts.
Yeah, no, I agree. They're all generally in that same area, which is why Juan Lisi, the handyman for Jeffrey Epstein, when he was asked in his deposition in the 2000s, before Trump ever was going to run for president, at least in the modern era of the 2015-2016 election, when he was asked, well, who did you frequently see at Jeffrey Epstein's Palm Beach estate, Juan Alisi said Donald Trump and RFK Jr. And see, that was when I really started looking at RFK Jr. You know, I've talked about RFK Jr.'s vast connections to Jeffrey Epstein, which are, you know, I would say Trump probably had the most if we're talking about major figures on the world stage right now, right? RFK Jr. is a close second. And a lot of people would argue, well, Bill Clinton this, Bill Clinton that. And I understand the Clintons had significant ties to Jeffrey Epstein. You know, the whole foundation of Clinton Foundation through Jeffrey Epstein. Do not get me wrong in any stretch of the imagination. I'm not downplaying the Clintons' involvement in Jeffrey Epstein. But most people downplay RFK Jr.'s involvement with Jeffrey Epstein, which was significant. And, you know, and so it just makes me upset. One was Whitney Webb. Why? Because Whitney Webb was working for Children's Health Defense. So while other people, such as myself, were trying to get Whitney to look at this information, trying to get Whitney to call out RFK Jr., and she eventually did, when she was no longer working for them, and supposedly because of what happened in Gaza, and RFK Jr. being an ardent Zionist, which is something I've talked about for years too as well, but nobody wanted to pay attention to me. His father, RFK, used to have, you know, frequent phone calls with the head of Chabad Lubavitch, Rebbe Minchaim Schneerson, okay, for hours talking about policy and stuff like that and everything. So don't come, you know, crying to me, Whitney, of how you fell for RFK Jr. and you fell for his lies and you even published them in your books, okay? Because no, I don't believe it. I just don't. I'm sorry, Weezy, I just don't. I don't believe her, all right? I just don't.
You're entitled to your opinion. See, and I just want to make the caveat for anyone that may have taken offense to that, but this is exactly why I don't trust anyone on these large platforms. You know, they're not on our side. I don't know how I feel honestly about Whitney Webb. I don't want to completely trash on her. I feel she's done some good work, but that was, like I said at the very beginning, one of the reasons that really drove me to start my own podcast was because I would see Whitney Webb on some of these shows, on Sean Atwood, and I would be in the live chat. What about Alan Dershowitz? What about Trump and Epstein ties? What about this and that? And it would get ignored, and no one would pay me any attention. I was looked at as just some crazy Looney Tune on the live chat. And that's what started me. And one of those was Whitney Webb. She would never talk about Trump. Lately, she has. And I seen Jason Burmis change tunes the last few days. Oh, we got to talk about Trump Epstein. Motherfucker, you ran cover for Donald Trump all these years. You signed for Red Voice Media, but now, oh man, the money's running out. Now I gotta switch sides. I don't know how I feel about that, man, because the signs have been there. Like John just said, we've been saying this shit for years, and you guys shied away from it. Maybe there was some monetary gains to shy away from it. I don't know, but it is what it is. I want to play this before we forget. I want to play this video clip of me down Brio Way, Epstein's old pad. This is super interesting. So I came over to visit Epstein's old mansion and take a selfie. And according to the records, his house is supposed to be 358 Brio Mar. And what we have here is a new property that they're building. So I'm assuming they knocked out the other one. And they changed the address to 360 because the house next door is 350. $350 right there. So that is wild. They must have knocked down the house probably because they were getting a lot of traffic, and maybe they're trying to cover tracks little by little. I don't know. That's super weird. So yeah, I just wanted to share that little clip that I took myself driving down and confirming that the Epstein property to Mar-a-Lago is literally a 25-minute walk away. It's not very far at all. And yeah, I hope that contextualizes things a little bit more. But when you see how Trump acted early on in the when he became president, talking about Epstein, he would get nervous. Then we can't forget also when he was asked about Ghislaine Maxwell and how he wished her well. He didn't wish her any bad ill will. And instead of speaking for the victims, he wished Ghislaine Maxwell well. It makes sense. They were next door neighbors. That's his homie. And I don't know how I feel, if I'm being honest, if she's actually even in prison, and if that's a psyop. We're told that she's in a lush facility. She's even got a little puppy dog that's in her cell, and she's allowed to do this and that. And if any of the inmates harass her, there will be retribution towards the inmates that harass her. She's like highly protected. That's what we're getting told. That's what we're getting fed. But I don't even know if she's even behind any bars, if I'm being quite frankly with you, man. I think that's more nonsense that we're being fed. I don't know, man. What do you make of all that?
Some interesting footage, I'll say that. I don't know. I go back and forth on it. They could put her under Club Fed where she's at now, just for the optics, or maybe she's not. It's just like Jeffrey Epstein. You saw information that came out today with him saying to his, well, not today, but this week, him saying to his therapist that he was too weak of a man to ever kill himself, right? To ever commit suicide, right? So there you go on that narrative as well, that Epstein didn't kill himself, right? So again, I don't know. Like, do I think that she's in prison? I don't have really one way or another. You go look her up to see if she's in the federal system, and she would show up as in the federal system. Yes, as Ashley said, same prison supposedly of Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos fame. The con artist that she was. And so, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, you could put some information up on a screen that I can look at, as far as like her federal information that she's in prison, right? But she may not exactly be in prison. And the thing is she's higher up than Epstein in the nexus. So does Trump pardon her? If she is, or if she isn't, does Trump pardon her? Weezy?
I don't know what to make of any of that, man. It messes with my mind, and that's what I mean if we're just getting psyoped with all this stuff. This is a clip where Trump wished Ghislaine Maxwell well. This is one of the clips that motivated me to start my show, man. I was like, man, I can't believe I just heard this from this guy. All right, let's play it.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I know you've talked in the past about Prince Andrew, and you've criticized Bill Clinton's behavior. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach.
I guess they lived, since you live down the road from these guys. The way he tries to like put distance, I guess they live down in Palm Beach. Oh man. And then this is from not too long ago. This was an interesting little bit that I wanted to play.
Might help you get into heaven.
Oh,
you had talked a couple of weeks ago, you were doing an interview, and you talked about how you hope to end the war in Ukraine because it might help you get into heaven. How does this help? Does this help?
I mean, I'm being a little cute. I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven. Okay, I really don't. I think I'm not maybe heaven bound I may be in heaven right now as we fly in Air Force One. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make heaven, but I've made life a lot better for a lot of people. And, as an example, had the election of 2020 not been rigged, you would have millions of people living just in Russia, Ukraine alone. That would have never happened. And it didn't happen for 4 years.
It would have never happened.
Now hold on. I got a follow up to that. Let me play something. There's breaking news. There's a follow up to that, Wheezy. All right.
All right.
Can you see my screen? Why is it on? There we go. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is him talking to CMP Eric Metaxas. Okay.
Eric
CMP Eric Metaxas and says, "This is the guy who's going to get me into heaven." You got to follow up, Wheezy. It's continuing. The chosen one, the narrative of the chosen one. Now, you and I disagree. I believe Donald John Trump is likely the Antichrist. Okay. But that is the narrative that is being pushed as he's pointing to Eric Metaxas, who's a big CMP shill. This is the guy who's going to get me into heaven. Right. So, I mean, I don't know what to think about all this, man. There's so many ops that are being played right now that I don't know which direction it's going to go. Is it going to go where, everything's revealed about the Epstein files, right? Because think about it. You know this. If they never wanted us to know anything about this, it would have never made it in the news media at all, period. Right? And not only that, let's say it briefly did, like the Franklin scandal or the Finders, right? It certainly would have not continued for as long and as many years as it has, right? This Epstein, information being very slowly leaked over time has kept it in public view and on their minds for so very long, right? Well, then you have to ask yourself, well, why? Why is that? Eventually it's probably going to eventually lead to some grand conclusion, right? So I think about these scenarios. I'm sure since you and I are the same personality, you think about these scenarios as well too. Often of where all this is going. And obviously we don't know for sure, but I would say that there, the one possibility you have is all this stuff's exposed. Trump ends up getting taken down and impeached because of it. And instead, J.D. Vance rises to power somebody else because Peter Thiel gets also taken down as well, right? That's one possibility, right? Another possibility is that somehow it's spun to take down Bill Clinton and the Democrats, right? Somehow Trump and the CMP spin it that way, even though they've been doing a horrible job and it's the pendulum swinging back and forth, right? And eventually it gets spun to take down that side of people. Okay. Third, eventually it's used to take down Israel and the controlled noticing. All right. That's the third part, right? Another part is nothing happens at all. And this just continues to go on for years and years and years and years and years as things slowly continue to drip out. Am I missing any? Am I missing any possible scenarios of how this could play out, Wheezy?
It could play out a number of different ways, man. And that's what messes with my mind. I don't know which way it's going to play out. It threw me off for a loop when we first heard that when Epstein was arrested. I'm like, whoa. And then supposedly he got taken out, allegedly. And now we're hearing a slew of information of Epstein stuff. And I don't know what to make of it. I mean, I wanted to play this clip too, I suppose, where, let's see. Is that on the screen? There we go. This is Pam Bondi. Let's hear what she had to say back then.
I want to know why AG Garland and the Justice Department are so quiet on this tonight. They're out there labeling parents domestic terrorists, yet they're saying nothing about this. And these documents were so slow to come out. Human trafficking is a multi-billion-dollar business in this country, and Jeffrey Epstein is dead, and Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison for 20 years where she belongs. And if people in that report are still fighting to keep their names private, Sean, they have no legal basis to do so unless they're a child, a victim, or a cooperating defendant by some chance against some potential case against Ghislaine Maxwell. And I think Mark Garagos, as a great criminal defense attorney, will back that up as well.
Ghislaine apparently is a name.
Ghislaine. I mean, I say
Ghislaine.
Ghislaine,
I say
Ghislaine.
it's Ghislaine
Maxwell.
Boy, I tell you who what. But look what she was saying then. We need to do something about this. We need to go after these rings and anyone on that list. And now Pam Bondi, present day, Pam Bondi's like, nope, it's a Democratic hoax, everyone. Nothing to see here. Dude, it's the same thing with Bongino. Bongino on his podcast was constantly talking about Epstein and how he was a threat and blah, blah, blah. Now the list needs to come out. And now they're like, no, case closed. Everything that the previous administration said happened with Epstein was indeed true. Like, no, there's nothing to see here. What? I don't know what to make of that. Like, they were parading, they were pushing it. This is what the MAGA base pushed for. This is what they wanted. And now they've had to do a 180-degree turn. And like, no, it's all made up. It's not real. It's a Democratic hoax. What the hell, man?
I have Trump, assigning the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi to investigate Clinton's and the Democrats' connections to Jeffrey Epstein, right? It's like, well, I mean, they could contact any of us Epstein researchers. We have the documents right there to give you. It's really not that hard to find. It's really not that difficult. I mean, it's just like ridiculous. The whole thing's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. And then we all know that Pam Bondi has covered up for Trump. She's a new fixer like William Barr is, even though they've turned against CMP William Barr. She stopped the lawsuits in Florida for Trump University. When Trump gave her that, tens of thousands of dollar campaign donation.
But I think that was a front because why would someone risk their career for $10,000 or whatever the amount was?
It was like $30,000, I think.
$30,000, yeah. Why would anyone do that? Unless there was some bigger numbers, in the back door. Plus, cash considerations and promises to be the AG during his presidency.
25,000.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I thought was there a promise to eventually make her attorney general? Were there promises to eventually, do this and do that? And we know Pam Bondi has numerous connections to Scientology. I'm not going to go through them all here on today's show, but it's for anybody to go look. She's held numerous Scientology fundraisers, fundraisers that have been held by Scientology, should I say, for her campaigns, right? So, I mean, what can I say? Now, I got something for you for us to start talking about, but primarily, let's see here. Look, I have your favorite Clint Russell from Liberty Lockdown. He's your favorite, right? Okay, you right? Okay, so here we have the Democrat Congresswoman Plaskett, right? Newly released documents reviewed by the Washington Post appear to indicate that a 2019 hearing where Michael Cohen testified, Jeffrey Epstein was texting with Delegate Stacey Plaskett from the Virgin Islands. Okay. The Post reviewed multiple video feeds from the hearing and matched the texts which were sent in Pacific time with the video.
When Barack Obama was president of the United States, and while we were once driving through a struggling neighborhood,
so the text says, "Are you chewing?"
Chicago, he commented,
and then she says to him, "Not anymore." Cohen brought up Rona, keeper of the secrets. And then Plaskett messaged Epstein, Rona.
Are you going to review it in our next break to correct the record? Yes or no?
Yes.
And then quick, I'm up next is the, I can't read that part.
The president's campaign.
Is that an acronym? Plasketsa asks Epstein. And then Epstein says that's his assistant.
2011. Is that accurate? Yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Weisenberg and other individuals, Ms. Rona. Who are those individuals? Are they with the Trump organization?
They
And
are.
are there other people that we should be meeting with?
So Alan Weisselberg is the chief financial officer.
Uh-huh.
of the
You got to
Trump
quickly give us
organization.
as many names as you can so we can get to them.
Yes, ma'am.
So here we have her begging Epstein for financial support. Good morning, Leslie. If you would share this invitation with Jeffrey, I'd be much appreciative. I would be grateful for his support and his support for those who may direct to assist me. I'll be in New York City the Thursday, the event through the weekend. Of course, we have other people, covering this for years, that she claims that she was not working directly with Epstein, but obviously based off of the new emails that we have, that is the case, right? So we have both the right and the left being manipulated and blackmailed and working directly with Jeffrey Epstein. Thoughts, Wheezy?
Again, it's stuff that I think people like you and I, we had already inklings regarding this, but for it to be vindicated now, I still don't even know how I feel about it. Are we being psyoped again? And that's where I'm at, man. I don't know what to make of any of this information that's come out, including all these emails that have come out. There was one particular email about Trump spending hours with
Yeah,
a
we're gonna get to
victim.
that. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So let me share that email real quick. There is the email you're talking about. Okay, go ahead.
Whoa, that reel I played of I made a clip, and apparently it's going viral right now. I made a clip of Roy Cohn and young Donald Trump as the twink, and I'm all of a sudden my phone is blowing up with people liking it. I hadn't done anything to that. That's hilarious. Hopefully it does go viral. That would be hilarious.
So what do you think about all this?
I can't read it, man.
Oh, you can't look at it?
Well, it's too blurry. Read it for me.
Okay, so you have Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Redacted victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. And then Ghislaine Maxwell writes back to him, I've been thinking about this. This was on April the 2nd, 2011. Okay. Now, interesting about all this is we didn't know who this so-called victim was. Okay. Now, my inklings is something I said live is I believed it was Virginia Roberts Giuffre. Just intuitively, it would make sense if that's who they were discussing, right? Well, Carolyn Leavitt from the White House confirms that these emails are true, because that's the whole, the whole MAGA could have said these emails are fake. They're released by the Democrats. They're fake news. These emails are lies. They're not real. But Carolyn Leavitt comes out and says, no, actually, these emails are legit. And not only are they legit, the redacted victim referenced in these emails were Virginia Roberts Giuffre. And not only that, she has come out in statements saying that Trump has never molested her or raped her and has nothing but been kind to her, forever. Okay. Well, okay, first of all, we have always had the narrative that Trump didn't spend a lot of time at Jeffrey Epstein's Palm Beach estate, right? Even from his own mouth, okay? We know that's false. That's straight up false. All right, we have Juan Alisi's testimony, obviously through the intimacy of Jeffrey Epstein and, Donald Trump and Ghislaine Maxwell and Donald Trump and all the pictures they've had together, at various events, including Mar-a-Lago. We know all of this is false, right? Because, Jeffrey Epstein has been roughly friends with Donald Trump for roughly anywhere between 14 to 16 years before the Abe Gossman estate. We actually got verification on the Abe Gossman estate. Something you and I both talked about. We're going to get to that email in a minute. All right. But this right here shows what would Donald Trump be doing at Mar-a-Lago? I mean, not Mar-a-Lago, Jeffrey Epstein's Palm Beach estate with Virginia Roberts Screw-Free for hours. When we have the testimony from Virginia Roberts Screw-Free, that we've had various testimony from her, but her main one being that she never really saw Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump together, and Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump never did anything to her, that it was all Prince Andrew, right? So what were they doing? Wheezy, were they just chatting? Were they playing Parcheesi? Like, what were they doing?
Playing Jenga, playing Hangman. Yeah, man. That is super interesting because a lot of these MAGAs would constantly, this is what I heard the last few years. Virginia Roberts Screw-Free exonerates Donald Trump, and so does her attorney, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that to me doesn't exonerate anything. The fact that she said that. What that means is, what the hell was she doing working at Mar-a-Lago and getting pimped out by Epstein and Maxwell to begin with when they were his friends? You know what I'm saying?
With her father working there as a handyman and later, later when he retired and getting awards from Donald Trump.
Yeah, and no one would ever really go there. And that's what drove me crazy. I'm like, and through these emails, it sounds like at some point, Trump may have known and not, he may have not liked that his property was being used for recruiting grounds, but he didn't go to the authorities. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, oh man, I'm not cool with that. None of this makes sense. And no one has ever talked about that. Like, Mar-a-Lago was essentially hunting grounds for these pedophiles. You know what I mean? Why go across the bridge and go into these schools when you could just go to Mar-a-Lago just within walking distance away and get the same quality of young kids, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, and here we have a new video. A new email, should I say? Virginia Roberts Screw-Free, Mar-a-Lago, right? That's where she was working at and where she was poached, right? Whole bunch of redacted stuff. This is, from Jeffrey Epstein to Michael Wolff, right? Trump said he asked me to resign, said I was never a member ever, okay, which we know all that is false because on page 6, I found an article where Epstein said that he never resigned from Mar-a-Lago in 2007, okay? Well, then, so that didn't happen. Of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop, okay? Now, a couple of things. One, Trump owns the Mar-a-Lago property, right? It's a private club, right? He asks Ghislaine Maxwell to stop. Stop, please, Ghislaine. Stop poaching girls from Mar-a-Lago and, and whatever.
And this is the same, and this is the same Ghislaine Maxwell that he wished well.
But hold on, I'm not done. Hold on.
Please stop, Ghislaine. Please don't do that.
So he owns his property. He doesn't bar her and bar Epstein from his property. He doesn't get restraining orders and trespassing orders on them so that if they go onto his property, okay, they are immediately arrested. He just goes, please stop. Please stop. Am I supposed to believe this? There's so many dual narratives in these emails. It's ridiculous. Now, you could just chalk it up to these are a whole bunch of dishonest people, so they're going to say a whole bunch of dishonest things and always try to shift the blame away from themselves, okay? Logically, I can't say that could not be a possibility, all right? But there are so many contradictions for what we think we know and what we hope is true to everything that is being said in these emails. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And I want to touch on Michael Wolff for those that may not be familiar with Michael Wolff. Michael Wolff is a journalist that allegedly has over 100 hours of Epstein on tape, just talking and talking and talking. Michael Wolff went to the jail cell and recorded a lot of these conversations, went and hung out with Epstein. And I've listened to quite a bit of his stuff. Like you, John, I don't put a lot of trust into this guy. And for me, the reason being is that he has all this material on Epstein and he's been holding it off for the highest bidder. So it was almost like a business venture. It wasn't because he was trying to be a crusader, trying to do the right thing. It was all about the Benjamins. And for me, that does not sit well with me. we got a Trump tard in the chat. You two are a riot. I love your delusions. You're the one that's still a hardcore Trump tard, buddy. So the delusional one is you, my man.
Cool hippie dude. If you do me a favor and actually go read Katie Johnson's first testimony, her first court documents that were filed in California about Trump and Epstein molesting her, all right, and molesting a girl, Maria, when they were both in their very young to early mid-teens. How about you go read those and get back to me, all right? Because there is very strong evidence through, there is a high degree of possibility. Probability. I put it at 98% confidence that Donald Trump is a rapist. Now, I put it at a high confidence, but not as high confidence as that Donald Trump is a pedophile. Okay? Now, I think he is, but, there are far more allegations about him being a rapist than there is, evidence that we have directly that he is a pedophile. Okay? So, though I think he is both, and I think that, take it for what you will, Maria Farmer's evidence, whether all of it is truthful or not, or Virginia Roberts Giuffre, whether everything is truthful about her or not, or Katie Johnson and, all her evidence and just everything that we have, there is enough evidence for me to believe that Donald Trump is a pedophile. And I think you would agree with me, Wheezy. All right. And so I'm sorry, all the comments that he made about his own daughter, dude, I would never in a million bajillion years ever make a comment or even think a thought even crossed my mind to say any of that stuff about my own daughter.
That right there is one that has troubled me quite a bit, is how these MAGAs, when you bring this up, they're like, oh, it's just locker room banter. What the hell kind of dad speaks about their own daughter that way? Sexualizes
they would have
their own
sex with, if she wasn't my daughter, I would have sex with her. That's not locker room talk. That's pedophile incestuous talk.
Yeah, exactly, man. That is beyond me, man. I don't understand a MAGA mind when you can show them these things and they still brush it off. Oh, that's just the libtards. No, this is Donald Trump saying this about his own damn daughter, man. Don't blame anyone else. Look at what your hero, look at what your Superman, the guy that you think is going to root out all these evils in our society, is saying about his own damn daughter.
Say what you will about Bill Clinton. He's never, to my knowledge, ever made a joke about Chelsea, at least publicly is what I mean. All right. Say what you want to say about Bill Clinton. I've never seen any comment where he's ever said that he wanted to have sex with Chelsea Clinton. All right.
Yeah, but I've seen him do some dubious acts and other things. I'm only saying that because all these guys, it doesn't matter if it's Bill Clinton or Donald Trump, they're all slimy.
Oh, I know.
Scumbags.
I'm not saying they're not, but at least Bill Clinton has the less vileness to hide it. You understand? Trump can't even hide any of this stuff. He's been a vile person for decades. For decades. At least Clinton has the tact to a degree.
Well,
so
call me Bubba. Call me Bubba. Call me Bubba, Donny. I'll show you my power. My power stroke. Oh, Donny. Come here, boy. Who wore it better, Monica Lewinsky or Donald Trump? That may be the poll
rough.
for today's
That's rough.
Spotify question. That's
And-
gonna be
and-
the Spotify question.
And the 2016 election was really between two people who were fighting for the heart of Bill Clinton.
Yeah, man. Oh, yeah. And that was the other thing that would annoy me when I would point out how close Donald Trump and the Clintons, not just Bill Clinton, but Hillary Clinton. There's a video of Donald Trump in 2009. He's at Trump Tower at his little office, and someone asked him what his thoughts were on Hillary Clinton. And Donald Trump says, with all the confidence in the world, he's like, Hillary would be a fantastic president. She would be great if she were elected as the first woman president. She would be amazing. And I would bring this up to a lot of these, both Trump tards and these woke tards. Like these guys, this is all wrestling, man. They're all homies. They all party together. Maybe Donald and Trump perhaps we're a little closer than I even thought at one point. Who knows? But it's all theatrics, man. All these guys, they run around the same circles. They, man, even for people that are averse to conspiracies, people that say conspiratorial thinking is way off and far off, I always like to talk about the Epstein case because that is a ongoing conspiracy, ongoing cover-up with all these big names and elites tied to this one guy who apparently also has Israeli intelligence ties and all these other intelligence ties. And he was blackmailing our politicians, our elites that make our laws, to which our taxpayer monies go to so that they take care of us. This big web entangles all these people that govern us, allegedly. You know, it's wild. And so anyone wanting to say, oh, yeah, conspiratorial thinking is off base, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, man. The Jeff Epstein case has entered the chat. And John Brisson is
I'm thinking.
Bombs.
I'm thinking.
Penetrate that skull.
It could be, I mean, it depends on where it goes, right? It could be used to expose Israel. It could be used to expose half of the world order, the whole Clinton Democratic size. It could be used to expose Donny T himself. I don't know. But I mean, this is proof that we're still talking about this, and it's been how many years?
Yeah.
9-ish, right? So, I mean, here we have Michael Wolff, who I am not a fan of at all. Not saying that everything he ever wrote about Trump was fake, but I think he is the definition of an opportunist.
Yeah. I don't think I finished my thought on Michael Wolff. I got a little distracted. But yeah, I view him in that same category as an opportunist, someone that is trying to monetize. Now, he did do a lot of research, and if his research is legit, I mean, I listened to several interviews he did this week. He did several shows on the Daily Beast podcast, and he was even questioned about his tactics. Like, well, Michael, it sounds like here you're trying to scheme with Jeff Epstein to ensnare Trump. That doesn't come off very couth like, it comes off uncouth, if you will. And he basically was saying, look, man, I was playing a role. I was playing a part. The only way Jeff Epstein was going to feed me these tidbits of information was if he thought I was his homie. And Michael Wolff also used his time at the White House. He goes, I was in the White House next to Trump when I wanted to write a book on Donald Trump. I was allowed unfettered White House access, and I got to see Trump behind the scenes and in front of the cameras. And the reason I was able to do that was they thought I was a friend of Donald Trump, and I thought I was a friend of the White House. So that you could take that information and use it in any number of ways. Well, shit, if he was sneaky about that, why should I trust his reporting on these other issues? That's a fair question. But I also understand his point. You know, if you're going to be getting these bits of information from these sleaze bags, from these notorious peds like Jeff Epstein, Donald Trump, you may have to use some sleazy tactics to get that kind of information. So it's tricky, man. There's no denying the Epstein tapes that he does have are gold, man. He has a treasure trove of them. It doesn't sit well with me, his tactics.
No, I agree. And here in this email, he says, on December 15th, 2015, I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in the scrum afterwards. And Epstein says, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it would be? And then Michael Wolff says, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that would politically generates a positive benefit for you, or it really looks like he could win. You could save him generating a debt from him to you. Of course, it is possible when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and he's gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is outlawed in the Trump regime. So, I mean, dude, like, I don't know. I don't like Michael Wolff. I've never liked Michael Wolff. I think he puts out some good information time to time. I can separate my own personal how I feel from Michael Wolff. But I mean, it ain't looking good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that information about let Trump hang himself, you know, he's talking to Epstein, let him hang himself. And it's also interesting how he was getting fed, you know, they knew Trump was going to get fed certain questions, and how they were talking about if this is legit. I don't know, what if all this is theater as well? That's wild. I gotta keep saying that because I don't know how much of this I actually believe, man. This is news that's out there. This is being carried off as fact. But even so, I don't know how much I put faith in any of this stuff. Why are we only hearing about this now? And it's the Democrats, quote unquote, leading the charge. The Democrats had this information when Trump was running and they didn't do a damn thing about it. But now they've decided to put a full court press. It seems orchestrated. This information had been out for years. So why now? I don't know. And so, I don't know. It may be disappointing for some people to hear that, like, I'm supposed to make up my mind definitively on this or that. No, that's not how I work. I honestly don't know.
I will say I do err on the side that a lot of this stuff is legitimate. I will say that, at least what we know about the Epstein nexus. I do believe there is some truth in it. Now, what would be truth and what may not be, you know, we don't have all the documents or all of the smoking guns or anything like that. Like, a lot of it is circumstantial evidence. A lot of it is things that we have gotten from the news media or even dubious sources like Michael Wolff or Stephen Bannon, for example. And, you know, I can't, again, like, do I think that Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and Ghislaine Maxwell and Donald Trump and Bill Clinton? Yes. You know, because there are victims who've come out who have been pushed to the side, like Katie Johnson, for example, that most of your audience may not even be aware of who she was. She's not even talked about or discussed, like Virginia Roberts Giuffre is pushed to the forefront, who covers for Trump every chance she got while she was alive, right? Supposedly, allegedly. So if that is the case, then why isn't Katie Johnson talked about? Why is she disappeared completely, not even brought up in the media? You know?
Yeah. That was right there, Katie Johnson. When the media wouldn't talk about her, you know, it was just getting covered up. I'm like, there's something here. And if there is a left and a right Why isn't the left bringing up Katie Johnson? Remember when Trump brought I think it was Juanita Broderick to one of the debates. So Juanita Broderick was allowed to get brought up, and I was like, oh wow, what a wow moment. Okay, why didn't the Clinton campaign bring over Katie Johnson? And that's something that has never sat well with me, man. And so I know there's people listening. We have a friend that still kind of holds hope that one side of the ideological spectrum is pushing back against the Trump regime and trying to avoid getting us into a further mess. It's all nonsense. It's all the same club. It's all the same team. The question is, why are we now getting these tidbits of information that have been out for many years now? You know what I mean? And I say that because for us, when we heard this news this week, it wasn't like mind-blowing. Well, excuse the pun. I guess the Bubba was. The Bubba revelation was. But other than that, I mean, a lot of the stuff we had already inklings about. We already knew this. So if you and I, John, I'm a garbage man. You got a job that you do full time. You know what I mean? You support your family. We're nothing.
DoorDash, and yeah, we're nothing.
Yeah, we're nothing fancy or nothing, but we knew this information. You're gonna tell me that these pundits on these left-wing rags that pump out millions of dollars in revenues a year or pay their pundits all this amount of cash, you're gonna tell me that they didn't have the same access to the information that me as a garbage man had? And couldn't reach the same goddamn conclusions? I'm no one special. So what gives? Why weren't these pundits talking about it when they had the opportunity to? Why wasn't most people talking about it when they could have?
Why weren't most people talking about RFK Jr.?
Yeah, they still don't. They still
don't.
A lot of people still view RFK Jr. as a good guy,
when he is a major transhumanist pushing the Peter Thiel Operation Tiberius Kirk, which is now under Doge. That's what truly Doge is, agenda, right? He's pushing the technocrat health agenda. And, he's still pushing for mRNA vaccines to be made properly using your analyzed DNA. Right. And you're still pushing Operation Cancer Moonshot, which was started by Biden under the Obama administration during the first term, which has continued on for mRNA vaccinations to treat cancer, and so people aren't even talking about any of this stuff at all. And I will say there is a possibility that I hold where it could be the CFR and the CMP jockeying for position, among other groups like La Circle and the Bilderberg Group, jockeying for position to see who can outdo the other to a degree, right? Now, ultimately, you and I disagree. I think that, Satan is controlling them to some degree, and ultimately God is sovereign above all. But, I can't rule out that some of it in some of the things that we do, because I don't think everything is completely controlled and manufactured. I don't, but I do think a lot of things are, and at least if things do happen, the narratives around them are spun and controlled by the media and majority of talking heads, right? And I think you and I would agree on that aspect, in that majority of what we see is controlled by AI algorithms at this point, and the media that we watch, and people's various opinions, and the spinning of information, and what was done through Cambridge Analytica, for example, using people's psychological and psychographical profiles, which is a personality, against them to get them to believe certain things, right? And so that's definitely happening today. There's no doubt about it, and it's worse. It's getting worse as technology increases. So again, I can't say for sure that the Democrats and the Republicans, at least the CFR and the CMP behind them, aren't having some fights sometimes in control of power like mafioso But I would also say that I could also see it too, that they agree and push forth agendas together in a lot of ways as well too. Does what I'm saying make sense? Whether you agree or disagree with me?
Yeah, I I feel you, man. The AI question is massive because they've been rolling it out little by little the last few years, but it's getting so much better. Which, with it getting better, it kind of demoralizes me because we're going to be seeing people um, deem everything as AI. Even stuff that is real will be considered AI. I'll give you a perfect example. So I was scrolling down Twitter, and there was a lot of people, especially on the White House Twitter feed. You know, the White House Twitter feed has been trying to do damage control all week, and they've been
Yeah.
getting shit on. They've
Yeah.
been getting ratioed by so many people. Their damage control is not working. And someone in one of these threads I was reading, I should have bookmarked it. I didn't. But they asked Grok, like, didn't Elon Musk say he had dirt, you know, on Donald Trump, something along those lines?
Well,
that-
remember that he had read the Epstein files, right? To what you're discussing.
Yeah.
Remember he had read them, and that we were going to be shocked about what the mark my
Yeah.
words, you know, and everything like that. So
Yeah. So yeah, they were basically, Elon Musk made a few tweets saying like Trump doesn't, along the lines, doesn't want to release the tweets because Donald Trump is all over the Epstein files, blah blah blah. And this was when they were feuding.
Mhm.
All right. And then Elon Musk deleted the tweets. And then he got invited to the White House, and he shows up with the White House with a black left eye or right eye. He had a black eyeball, and he fell in line again after making some crazy
supposedly
tweets.
that was Scott Bessent giving him a punch to the eye, supposedly, allegedly. So that's what they say.
Well, supposedly it was little, what the hell is his little son, Malcolm X? Or
Well, they were saying it was his son. I know you're talking about with the weird.
what the hell is the little kid's name?
I can't remember, but there was also the narrative around going the same time as him and Scott Bessent got into a fight about the Doge stuff, and Scott Bessent socked him in the face.
Yeah, but this kind of falls in line with him talking smack on Twitter on Donald Trump, talking about how he was going to be in the Epstein files. Then Elon Musk deletes the tweet. Well, what really freaked me out was I'm looking at this thread, and then they're asking Grok. Grok is Twitter's AI version, you know, of ChatGPT, I suppose. And they're like, Grok, is it true that Elon Musk knew that the Epstein files would like down Donald Trump? And Grok said there is no verifiable evidence that Elon Musk has ever said that. He has a professional platform. He would never perform unbecoming tweets such as this. And then people are starting to argue with Grok, like, I seen it. And someone put a screenshot. Someone's put a screenshot, and Grok's like, these images are interesting, but that does not confirm. This isn't verifiable evidence. I'm like, whoa, man, this was freaking me out, man, because this is what's going to happen. History is going to be rewritten. We all saw these tweets that Elon Musk was making against Donald Trump, but now we're getting gaslit into it never happened. Elon Musk would never engage in unbecoming behavior such as this. And the other thing that Grok said was Elon Musk rarely deletes tweets, and people were like, well, that's no evidence of anything. What if these were some of the very few tweets that he deleted? So, but it's crazy times that we're living in, man. You know, I posted a tweet of Donald Trump reaching over for Bill Clinton's junk, and I got a community noted on that retweet. It was actually a retweet. It was a community noted that this is AI. Looks pretty damn real to me. So what the hell are we to make of all this stuff, man? Especially when AI is getting so damn good and prevalent these days.
I don't know, man. It's gonna get wild. You know, they already have Roger Stone setting up saying things are AI. This is AI. This is that's AI. Trump saying this is AI. That's AI. You know, if anything ever truly got released, because there is truth, whether we can't ever truly know everything about a situation or not. We should always try to do our best to try to get to the truth of a situation or what happened, right?
Ooh,
That should be our objective. I think you would agree with me on that, right? So we should always try to. We may not always get there, but there is a truth that happens with every circumstance or with everything that occurs, right? So, I don't know. They keep what's AI, what's not AI, at this
yeah.
point.
So here's the little thread I was telling you about. Um,
Imagine arguing with Grok, which is, okay, yeah, we actually no, hold on.
oh, look, it got community noted.
Remember when Grok went full 1488 Heil Hitler, and then they had
Yeah.
Elon Musk had to like rope it back into
Dial
like
it down.
behaving right? Yeah, you
Yeah.
remember all that? I expect that to happen again and again and
Yes.
again.
So here's the original tweets from Spencer Hakamian, or however the hell you say his name, and it shows a screenshot of Elon Musk tweeting, "You are so proud of the one-liners you wrote. It must be hard to talk shit with a dick in your throat." At Donald Trump. So now that we know the Bubba stuff, that tweet is rather interesting. And then Elon Musk, even I remember him writing this, and it says, "Mark this post for the future. The truth will come out." And then Grok was working overtime to say, "Oh yeah, that Elon Musk." Look, someone wrote at Grok, "Were these real Elon posts?" And then Grok says, "No, those are not real
Now,
posts
I
from
don't know if the
Elon
first
Musk."
one is, but I know the second one for sure is a real post. The second one for sure was real
Dude,
because I remember seeing it with my own eyes too.
This one was real too, man. Like Elon Musk, I don't know if he was on a cocaine binge or what.
Ketamine. He was on that.
Yeah,
He was got them ketamine diamond eyes from the Maps Institute.
This is what Sean Atwood did. When back in the Sean Atwood days, I would do live streams, and Sean Atwood would. I'm assuming he was on cocaine as well, and just writing the most ridiculous stuff on my live chat, bro. Through his account, he was like he was saying he was doing sexual stuff while listening to Wheezy's voice in the background.
Woo.
Like, yeah, this is Sean Atwood. But I when Elon Musk was making these tweets, I'm like, man, I wonder if he was just going through some binge and he was just writing.
Writing, that ketamine, he's always in that K-hole,
writing weird ass stuff. But let's see. There was okay. I want to play. Oh, okay. Can you see this right here? Yes, you can. I just wanted to double check. Those little dance moves by Donald Trump make a lot more sense now. Now, but I wanted to play this from MTG earlier. All right, let's listen to MTG today. Marjorie Taylor Greene, for those that may not know.
I stood with President Trump when virtually no one else did. Campaigned all over the country, spent millions of my own dollars helping him get elected. And I think that's incredibly important. And I do support him and his administration. And I support them in delivering the campaign promises we made to the American people. His remarks, of course, have been hurtful. However, I have something in my heart that I think is incredibly important for our country. And that is to end the toxic fighting in politics. And this has been going on for years, and it has divided our country, split up friends and families, neighbors, and it's not solving our problems. The most hurtful thing he said, which is absolutely untrue, is he called me a traitor. And that is so extremely wrong. And those are the types of words used that can radicalize people against me and put my life in danger.
What do you think happened? What do you think is the reason for this?
Unfortunately, it has all come down to the Epstein files, and that is shocking. And, I stand with these women. I stand with rape victims. I stand with children who are in terrible sex abuse situations. And I stand with survivors of trafficking and those that are trapped in sex trafficking. And I will not apologize for that. I believe the country deserves transparency in these files. And I don't believe that that rich, powerful people should be protected if they have done anything wrong. And so I'm standing with the women, and I will continue to do my small part to get the files released.
What are your thoughts on hearing that?
Setting up for some sort of narrative. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean,
I got mixed feelings. I was just curious how you felt about it.
I mean, pragmatically, is it a good thing that MTG is out there saying that she apologizes for spewing the toxic rhetoric of MAGA and Donald Trump? Sure. I don't know if she took back Jewish space lasers or not. I'm joking there. But I don't know how much, I need more specifics from her. Now, do I really believe this to be true? No, I don't. Pragmatically, could I assume that it is? Yeah, and it's a good thing that she's saying these things and coming out against Trump. Sure. But I don't trust her. I never trusted her. So how do I know she's telling the truth now when she's lied so far much in the past? Just because what? Now she's against Trump and now therefore I'm supposed to believe her? I don't. She's going to do whatever she wants, in my opinion, that's advantageous for her, if it's not all just a script for her to follow. I don't have an answer, but that's how I feel about it. You?
Yeah, I don't trust any politicians. I like what some politicians say from time to time, like Ron Paul. I like some of the stuff he says, but he still gets back. He'll still back Donald Trump and, criticize him sometimes, but still stands behind him, completely ignoring the Trump or the Epstein stuff.
Yeah.
That to me is the biggest thing. Like, I can understand if you like Trump because you think he's going to do this or because he talks smack about wokeism. I can understand that. But you can't ignore the Epstein ties. This is what kills me each and every time. Is like, how do you just overlook that? How do you overlook his nastiness, his dirtiness? And it's just like, well, the economy's good, yeah, all right.
Yeah, but now,
It's
even
ridiculous.
if this is all true to your point, now since his ire is turned towards her, now she's upset about it, and we're supposed to be like, well, really? Now, Donald Trump's a vile person.
Yeah.
Now his vileness is directly towards her, supposedly, allegedly. And now all of a sudden we're supposed to be like, oh, Marjorie Taylor Greene, we're so sorry. It's okay. We welcome you back. How about we just pray for her?
How about we don't trust
her?
any of these clowns? Yeah, don't put your faith in any of these clowns, man, because you get suckered in each and every time. I fell for the RFK Jr. grift early on. I fell for it. I'm admitting it. I thought, oh man, this guy's pushing against the and I'm on YouTube, but the COVID narrative, I suppose he's pushing against it. He was on James Corbett's show. I'm like, man, this guy might be legit. Then you start doing more research and more research. Oh man, I got duped once again. And so I don't have any hope on any of these clowns, whether it's MTG or a Massey. It's we got to get out of that mindset that we have saviors, that these political pundits or talking heads are going to save us from all this. What's going to save us is when we start putting our trust in these clowns. That's what's going to save us, and not falling for their shenanigans each and every time.
So most people bring up Ron Paul, right? Ron Paul was a long-time Council for National Policy member. So was his son, and Ron Paul is a Freemason. But a lot of people put their original trust in him. The Bible says to put your trust in no man, put your trust in God. So I don't see why are people now all of a sudden believing Marjorie Taylor Greene just because she's anti-Trump now and so-called for the Epstein victims, right? Why couldn't she have been this way the whole entire time? Or Thomas Massey who spoke, at the anniversary of the John Birch Society. So none of these people are our guys. None of them. None of them.
I agree. Now, here's one example of what's been going on with the Trumps and the MAGA world. This guy's quote retweeting one of his tweets where he ratioed Donald Trump.
The White House, Trump.
Yeah. So his post has 3 million views and 131,000 likes. Here's the White House talking about the golden age. Welcome to the golden age, y'all. He's got like 13,000 likes and 5.3 million views.
And it's nice for that context saying we're not in the golden age. Did you see that? At least that's there.
Well, let's look at some of the.
Yeah, that's the controlled noticing. Left wing, right wing, and the beat. Controlled noticing right there, chat.
Yeah, if you look at the comments, man, it is clown world, man.
Oh, good gosh.
Damn, bro. It is completely roast central.
But hold on. Is this post-politics, Wheezy? Is this what politics is now? We're so divisive that this is what it is mimetic warfare from the pits of Cambridge Analytica, from the pits of hell? Is that what all this is? Is that what all this is? I mean, good gosh, man.
Yeah. Well, obviously this is anecdotal stuff for sure. But not too long ago, when the White House would make a post, America's back. Yeah, we got this. We're drinking beer and wearing jeans and wearing MAGA hats. Yeah. The South will rise again, brother. The White House Twitter would just destroy, boom, boom. If they wanted to make fun of a left-wing politician, they'd post them up and just clown them, and all the attack dogs would jump in. Now we're seeing they're in full-on damage control, and their whole Twitter feed is nothing.
Yeah, it's rough, man. It's rough. But you have to realize who's running the algorithm for X is Elon Musk. So then you got to ask yourself, well, what's going on here? Is this purposely supposed to be done? Like, Trump is the king of chaos. I mean, Marina Abramovic roughly alluded to that about Trump, right? And why she appreciated Trump, right? So, by the way, I'll bring up the Liz Crokin. You want me to bring up the Liz Crokin? And then we'll get to this Bannon article in a minute. You're going to find interesting. All right. So what did you think about the Liz Crokin falsehoods that are being spun? If we're going to take it all back to Pizzagate, Wheezy, if we're all going to take it back to pizza, how did you feel about the Liz Crokin stuff?
You want some pizza? Hey there. You want some pizza? Liz Crokin is one of these PSYOP influencers, 100%. Any of these large accounts on X, I'll even put in Clint Russell in that mix as well. Yeah, they're all PSYOP influencers. They get paid to spew propaganda and ridiculous talking points. That's their job. Their job is to, I guess, produce some kind of reaction and have the masses go with it. Have the sheep, if you will, go with it. And they have quite a bit of sheep that they flock around.
Go ahead and share it, my friend. Let's show the masses. Liz Crokin directly puppeteered by Michael Flynn and the Flynn Nexus herself. Breaking: Jeffrey Epstein sent his lawyer a high importance email about Pizzagate. Jeffrey Epstein sent his lawyer an email noted as high importance in a late 2016 stated Hillary and Bill Clinton's relationship with Epstein had the greatest bearing on Pizzagate, referring to an article in The Guardian. Read that again, please. Epstein considered Pizzagate high importance and emailed his lawyer about it. Epstein and the Clintons are Pizzagate, and it's always been real. Even freaking Epstein knew that, which is why he or anyone else ever sent me so much as a legal letter over my nonstop reporting on Pizzagate over the past 10 years. TikTok. Now, you and I, we're human. We've made mistakes as well. We've made mistakes in reporting. You retract it. You move on. It is what it is, right? And so when you analyze this email, well, we should notice that is right here is Jeffrey Epstein's email, supposedly, allegedly, JEEVAC, Jeffrey Epstein vacation, right? It's right here, right, at gmail.com. All right. And that's its email address, right? Well, this one doesn't have a V, it has a Y, which PSYOP influencer himself, Ian Carroll, interacts with Liz Crokin and corrects her and says, Forge, check the two different emails for Epstein. One has a typo. And Liz Crokin, instead saying, you know what, I'm going to retract this. This email is likely false. It's a mistake. It's a fabrication. She goes, maybe you can obviously tell that the two emails are incorrect there, Liz. All right. So therefore, this whole email chain is false. Okay. And she goes, but does it change the fact that Pizzagate is real and Epstein is Pizzagate?
Yeah.
This right there should disqualify Liz Crokin as an award-winning author and journalist for 25 plus years.
Yeah.
Right there. This right here.
Instead of admitting that you were wrong, yeah, she's running with it. Clicks and views, bro. Clicks and views.
So, I mean, that right there should be enough. Other than her deep Michael Flynn ties, should be enough. Which, by the way, Michael Flynn's brother, who I've discussed for years and years on my channel, and none of I brought it to many left-wing investigators on X who eventually exposed to me through DMs that they were believing in their own version of QAnon, which I call left QAnon because I don't really have a better name for it, where their catchphrase was hashtag follow the dominoes instead of hashtag trust the plan, and that Biden was going to send all of the CMP, including Donald Trump, to Gitmo to be charged for war crimes and beheaded. Sounds very similar, doesn't it, Wheezy? I used to send them straight up evidence of McChrystal's involvement in the QAnon operation with Flynn, who I believe left-wing QAnon was being run by Stanley McChrystal. But I would send them all information. I would send them all information that Charles Flynn, through Michael Hastings' book, was in on it, and he was there as a major part of January 6th. And Joseph Robinette Biden, you think since Charles Flynn was a major part of the January 6th mixed operation, okay, you would think that the Biden administration would have, relieved Michael Flynn of duty, maybe court-martialed, Charles Flynn, relieved Charles Flynn of duty, maybe court-martialed Charles Flynn, right? But no, they promote Charles Flynn because of January 6th to the head of Pacific Command. Now, I kept telling them, well, this is proof that Biden ain't going to do anything, and the people around him, they didn't. And they continued working with Palantir in building the beast system brick by brick during the entire Biden administration. So who does Charles Flynn work with now, since he has stepped down from head of Pacific Command and retired from the United States military? He is now a senior advisor to Palantir. I told all of these people, I told them all, but they're all backstabbers in the leftist parapolitical community, the major writers. And I've talked about them on my channel. I'm not going to name them here. If you want to find out who it is, I've talked about them on depth on my channel over the years. And so they're all snakes. They're all snakes because they were telling you that Biden was doing something and the Biden administration was going to do something. And in reality, they were working lockstep with Palantir, just like Donny T is now. There's no difference.
Yeah, no difference. That's where I'm at. Left and right, just two wings of the same damn bird. Do not put your faith in any of these people. What do you got? The Steve Bannon thing?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
You want to read it? I'll make it bigger.
Yeah, make it bigger. Let's go.
Is that big enough?
Yeah, I got it. All right, can you go up, please?
Yeah.
Who is this from?
The Guardian.
Okay. Okay. This is from The Guardian. Steve Bannon advised Jeffrey Epstein for years on how to rehab his reputation. Text show. And what's the date on this?
From Jason Wilson, November 15th, 2025.
Oh, so this is recent. Okay. Hundreds of texts over almost a year show MAGA influencer Steve Bannon and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein workshopping legal and media strategies to protect Epstein from the legal and publicity quagmire that enveloped him in the last year of his life. The text released by the House Oversight Committee on Wednesday show that as early as June 2018, the pair were devising responses to the gathering storm of public outrage about Epstein's criminal history, his favorable treatment by the justice system, and his friendships with powerful figures in business, politics, and academia. Bannon conspiratorially described the renewed scrutiny of Epstein as a sophisticated op. And over time, he counseled Epstein in his adversarial responses to media outlets, the justice system, and his victims. All the while, both men were also strategizing how to best promote Bannon's right-wing populist agenda and the political fortunes of its standard bearer, Donald Trump. In all of Epstein's messages, the identity of his correspondence is redacted. But Bannon's identity in the thread cited in this report is clear from the contextual clues, including his documented activities at the time, details of his business and media pursuits, and other disclosures. In one document, the sender's phone number is not redacted, and it is the same number linked to Bannon in a legal case against Trump advisor Roger Stone. Bannon did not respond to requests for comment. When Elon Musk said earlier this year that Bannon is in the Epstein files, Bannon told The Independent he wanted a special investigator to look into all the Epstein documents. The men were discussing Epstein's problems even before he came to broader public awareness as a notorious sex criminal with odd connections to the Trump administration.
Okay, I'm just going to hold on, a little bit more. If you want me to read some, I can.
Let's see. Bannon left the Trump White House in late summer 2017, but enjoyed a vibrant career as a MAGA influencer. On June 22nd, June 2018, on the 22nd of June 2018, days after Epstein had been the focus of an anti-Trump protest at a Trump speech, the man began discussing the scandal that was beginning to loom over Epstein. At first, they treated it as a publicity problem, with Bannon seeing it as an orchestrated campaign. All correspondence is reproduced with typos and unconventional spelling and punctuation in originals. Bannon asked Epstein, "Who is running this op on you? Something serious is going on." Epstein replied, "First a protest at Clinton and then at Trump. Lots of people very angry at our friendship." Bannon responded, "It's an op, dude. I do this for a living. The pieces that are dropping are deeply researched," adding, "This is sophisticated op." In November, blockbuster coverage from the Miami Herald began highlighting Epstein's misdeeds, connections, and apparent leniency shown in him at center stage. In December, he was not only feeling the heat, but musing about his capacity to damage the Trump administration. On the 18th of December, an unknown correspondent tried to reassure Epstein, writing, "It will all blow over. They're all really just trying to take down Trump and doing whatever they can to do with that." Epstein responded, "Yes, thanks. It's wild, because I am the one able to take him down." In early February of 2019, Bannon opened an exchange in the developing story by linking to an item at controversial news site Zero Hedge that quoted Republican then Senator Ben Sasse on the matter. Epstein responded, "Yes, wild," and linked to a Fox News item covering the same ground. He then asked for Bannon's advice on how to respond. Continue to ignore? Ann Coulter on Hannity, attack, op-ed, not my skill set, adding, "What about the attunes penning something that suggests indignation and lays out some of the facts?" "That drives it a week," Bannon responded, causing Epstein to seek clarification. Sass calling me a child rapist is nuts. Sorry, do you mean ignore? Or responding makes it worse? Bannon replied, I think it makes it way worse. Epstein responded, K. What about Ken talking directly to Sass?
Bannon replied, won't help, but yes.
But yes.
So what do you think about all that?
It seems not too very good for Steve Bannon. This is something that we've been talking about, how close Steve Bannon was to Epstein for a long time. And so if this is indeed real, and some of the reason I was struggling to read some of the stuff is because some of the stuff is misspelled and there are typos. So I was trying to.
Yeah, that's Epstein. He's horrible at typing stuff.
Yeah, but he's the genius that we were sold.
Correct.
At the Dalton School and whatnot. Yeah, it's if this is real, if this is legit, it just shows how close Epstein was to Bannon. One thing that comes to mind as I'm reading this, Steve Bannon is this big, massive, overpowering figure on the right, for MAGA, right wing, pushing right wing stuff, right wing this, right wing that, conservative values are under attack, blah, blah, blah. A lot of the Epstein stuff, he gets pitched as apolitical, but if you were to put him in a box, more of a lefty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And through this communication, they're pretty damn close. But via the optics, via the, how we've been presented to through the media and whatnot, you would think that they were polar opposites of each other.
Yeah, I mean, if you continue reading it all, here's one part that's interesting.
Go ahead, man. Pick it up.
By April, the two were apparently planning a film production that would redeem Epstein's reputation. On April 30th, Epstein wrote, the Christians I met with feel the media portraying me as beyond redemption is deeply troubling and offensive. Bannon replied with strategic remarks. Yes, of course, but we must counter rapists who traffics in female children to be raped by world's most powerful, richest men that can't be redeemed. That's why we let them blow up the argument while showing the 12 you redeemed. He added, can't redeem unredeemable. You are a lot of things which we will show, but you are not that. Bannon then asked, did you get the film we shot? Epstein responded, just landed. Then appeared to discuss financing the film in a way that obscures Epstein's involvement. Bannon then asked, are you far enough on your assignment? Could we film this weekend? Epstein then asked, how many people would you bring? Bannon responded, limited crew, 5 max, probably 3. Further on, Epstein asked, did you guys prefer beard or no beard? And Bannon responded, slight growth. In 2024, media reports indicate that Bannon recorded some 15 hours of Epstein for a planned documentary as a way of assisting him with his PR problems. In May 2019, Bannon was encouraged Epstein as he adopted a professionally devised media strategy to deal with increased scrutiny after Miami Herald published an explosive series into his plea deal with the federal government years earlier, which kicked off a steady drumbeat of news coverage about the billionaire. He texted Epstein, did you hire the crisis comms guys so we can drive the narrative off that great Times piece? Epstein responded, he's here with me now. He thinks stick to legal. A deal is a deal, etc. And then a few months from now, he again acknowledged his image problem, decide how to deal with the pervert hermit image and fill the box with another narrative. Bannon responded, agree. How are we sticking to the legal? Epstein responded, articles by legal people, professors, lawyers, etc. Now I'm focused. Bannon responded, relief. You had me worried. Focus, good. On May 28th, the pair expressed a shared irritation to Epstein's inclusion in Fire and Fury, the first of spring book, 5 books by author Michael Wolff, which chronicled Trump's career in national politics. Epstein wrote, I have now seen some of Wolff's book, mentions me and underage prostitutes. You as a man behind in the front of the curtain, lots of Steve quotes, lots. Bannon replied, ugh, anything awful? Wish he hadn't done that. Why are you mentioned at all? Epstein responded, Palm Beach house purchase. Don't reach out to Michael. Then offered details on Wolff's treatment of Epstein. Bannon responded with an ugh. Bannon also offered an ugh in response to a link Epstein sent separately to a Raw story article that re-reported details of the real estate deal that Wolff claimed ended Trump and Epstein's friendships. That would be the Abe Gossman estate. Got more on that in a minute. Bannon frequently cheered Epstein on as the fear around the case grew, and in one instance joined in a late spasm of false optimism. On June 25th, just weeks before Epstein was particularly rearrested, he texted Bannon a headline: Jeffrey Epstein plea deal must stand. Prosecutors tell sex abuse victims. Bannon responded, "Dude," adding, "Is this the real? Tell me this is real." And later adding, "Is that out anywhere yet?" Epstein replied, Miami Herald, but more and better, July 9th. Miami Herald had published a story under that headline the same day. Bannon responded, "Epic, epic, epic." Epstein was arrested on the 7th of July. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, pretty much what I just said earlier too, where you see how close these two were, where areas prior to this, people would have said, no way, Steve Bannon and Epstein being friends. Another thing that doesn't get often mentioned is how Steve Bannon visited Epstein in the jail cell prior to the alleged happenings to Epstein. He visited with him. And this is the voice of MAGA. He's got a large audience in the war room with Steve Bannon, breaking bread with Jeff Epstein. Steve Bannon was pushing Tim Ballard's Sound of Freedom, pushing that psyop. So I've been saying for a while, man, this whole save our children was all nothing but unfortunately, a psyop. Because who wouldn't want to save our children? Of course we all do. But it was being used as a ruse to only... I made a tweet earlier. MAGA promised to stamp out pedophiles. They promised to drain the swamp. And instead what MAGA did was embolden pedophiles and make that swamp into a massive-ass lake. Polar opposite of what they portrayed and espoused to be.
Yeah. I can't share a picture I have of a tweet that I took. It was supposed to be something that you might find quite interesting, which was there was a YouTube link of an interview that got taken down that we don't know who Jeffrey Epstein sent it to, but they said, "How are you? Send this interview to Donald Trump, please. It's going to be everywhere." And Epstein said, "Okay." This was on June the 21st, 2017. Would you like to take a guess of what that YouTube link at one time pointed to and what interview that might be?
What's that?
That would be the Katie Johnson interview. Oopsie, oopsie. So,
whoopsie.
Yeah, man. And then, in closing, we got some emails here. This is Jeffrey Epstein to Larry Summers. Record, I've told you I've met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump, not one decent cell in his body. So yes, dangerous. Tell the MAGA people that are saying that, Jeffrey Epstein's exonerating Trump and everything that he's doing. Right?
No.
This is Jeffrey Epstein to Landon Thomas Jr., who's a reporter. He feels alone in his nuts. I told everyone from day one, evil beyond belief, mad, and most thought I was speaking metaphorically. It's obvious he could crack. Stormy Daniels, lies after lies after lies.
No.
And then we've already read that one. And then this one, it's interesting. This is Thomas Landon Jr. Now everyone coming to me thinking I have juicy info on you on Trump because of this. And of course, Trump thing saying that, I've known Jeffrey for 15 years, terrific guy, the quote that we have, right? And then Epstein goes, "Would you like photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen?" And Thomas Landon Jr. says yes.
Yikes.
So, oof. And then
Zooks.
In that same thread, now everyone's coming to me thinking I have juicy info on you on Trump, Thomas Landon Jr. says. And then Epstein says, "Read the BuzzFeed, read my airplane logs and Hawaiian Tropic contest. Have them ask my houseman, Wanalisi," Wanalisi was his houseman, "about Donald, almost walking through the door, leaving his nose print on the glass as young women were swimming in the pool. And he was so focused, he walked straight into the door." Okay.
Yeah.
Which reminds me that in Roger Stone's book, I believe it was Clinton's war on women. I remember he writes a story about Donald Trump, driving up with his limo to Jeffrey Epstein, or driving by his house, which he couldn't have driven by his house because it was a dead end, right? And yeah, that's right. I think if I'll go back and track down the quote, but if I remember correctly, he was driving by Jeffrey Epstein's Palm Beach estate, okay, which would make no sense because as you showed, he drove right into the water if that was the case, right?
Yeah.
And Trump
it's on a dead end. How do you drive by?
Trump goes to the limo driver, and he sees all these like young girls in the pool, right? And he goes, that's nice. Jeffrey Epstein must have some of the local kids over, in a pool for a pool party.
Yeah, that's not flying.
Let me see if I can find that.
Wild stuff. Hope everyone's enjoying that. If you have enjoyed that, make sure you hit those like buttons, fire buttons, whatever buttons.
Yeah, right here. Roger Stone,
Leave some
Trump's foreign
comments.
advisor, wrote in his book, The Clintons' War on Women, that once after Trump visited Epstein's home in Florida, he commented about the girls he saw, saying the swimming pool was filled with beautiful young girls. But that's not the full quote. The quote was trying to make it look like Trump was innocent. Let me try to find the full one.
Make sure you share that tab when you pull it up if you can.
Will do if I can find it.
I will do. Shout out to the people in the UK. And in Manchester.
Man, they're making it hard to find.
You can't find it?
I find echoes like I mentioned earlier, but X because of these new emails, it buries everything.
Gadzooks, bro. Gadzooks. Look, I'm watching my language because I have John Brisson on the show. So my choice of cuss word today is gadzooks. Leaping lizards. So while we wait for
I might not be able to find a Wheezy. We might have to talk about it. I did reference it and I did show it is in his book Roger Stone, the Clintons' War on Women, which Robert Morrow, by the way, who co-authored that book with Stone, has completely came out and changed his opinion completely and said that Donald Trump is a pedophile. By the way, he's completely done a 180 years ago. I mean, what do you think about all this?
It's the same as I told you at the very beginning. I don't know what to make of it. It's a lot of information. A lot of it corroborates what I have been saying for years. And especially when people were writing me off like, oh, man, you're a little bit far off base. But I'm used to that by now. Anytime I have certain views and I espouse them, at first I get written off. And then down the line, I get vindicated. Trump assassination being one of them attempt. So what I think is, I don't know. It does vindicate me, but now it makes me more skeptical. Why are we being led to see this?
Yeah, it's right here. It's in Clinton's War on Women by Roger Stone. Trump's once returned from Jeffrey Epstein's home. And supposedly when he was driving by, he had said to his chauffeur, the swimming pool was filled with beautiful young girls. How nice, I thought. Jeffrey Epstein let the neighborhood kids use his pool. That's the exact quote.
But how do you drive by?
Exactly.
I just showed you. I didn't pay attention to that email earlier. When I started and I showed you that map, he lived in a dead end street at the water's edge, pretty much. How do you drive by? you don't just drive by. You have to physically go there and make it a point to get there.
So one last email I want to find is the Robelev one. We have new information about that. So Trump, Epstein, email Abe Gossman, since you and I have talked about the Abe Gossman estate a lot. Let me see if I can find that one. That one's a pretty long one. Since I have some of these saved on past pictures on my Discord, but I can't share pictures on the screen. That one I might not be able to find. That one I might have to read.
Just read it, yeah. That's fine.
All right, let me bring it up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
That one
sir.
also mentions Bill Pulte, the home builder, by the way. That was previously not known. So I'll read this to you. All right, this should be it. Yeah, okay. So this is to Michael Wolff. Prostitution is a state crime. Never before a man in his own house charged with soliciting. In Florida, first offenders are required to take a sex ed class and get a pretrial diversion. No criminal record. This him talk about himself. There is a felony solicitation for the third offense. A grand jury was held and they found me guilty of one count of felony solicitation because there were many girls. Mandatory diversion sentence. A grand jury usually only for capital murder cases. Ricari and Reeder, police chief, pulled my garbage for months and surveilled the house, letting all the girls come and go. Called in the FBI. They did not like the grand jury result and released to the press the raw sewage of police interviews, i.e. no girl was cross-examined ever, unheard of. The girls returned the house multiple times for $200 for a rub and tug. No sex. Well, a rub and tug is sex. Sex work. Some worked in local massage parlors, most in their mid-20s. There is only press stories told by strippers of me buying my girlfriend from Slovakia from her parents, girls under 15, all made up to get press. FBI puts a task force together titled Operation Leap Year to investigate my personal massage activity, nuts, interviews my chiropractor, medical info, etc. Virginia Roberts Giuffre worked at Mar-a-Lago. Trump knew of it and came to my house many times during that period. The testimony of the houseman, Juan Alisi, confirmed it. He never got a massage. Abe Gossman, a friend of mine, ran into financial difficulty with assisted living homes. His home was listed at $45 million with no takers for months on end. He and I agreed on a price of $30 million. His wife, Blank, ends up going to jail for lying to the bankruptcy trustee about her jewelry. This is the summer of 2004. I became a stalking horse bidder at $36 million, i.e. if someone bid higher, I would receive a fee. Trump buys Abe Gossman estate at the telephone auction. Only me, Trump, and his friend Pulte, the developer, and who's working currently for the Trump administration. Bill Pulte, who was the one who's pushing for the 50-year mortgage, supposedly. And no one will touch it. It is bought in the name of Trump Properties LLC. No idea who owns it, who else it owns. 3 years in 2008, he sells it to Dmitry Robolev for approximately $100 million, who's a Russian oligarch. He should have had a $50 million plus capital gain. He tells people in press he spent $20 to $30 million to fix it up. That would justify a reduction in capital gains. Key question, how did he report the sale if he did it all in his 2008 tax return? He has no money when he buys the house. His business model is putting his name on real estate development and from its operation eventual sell. Trump put his name on it and got a 2% fee and maybe a piece of the profit, if any, on sell. He touts the project as his. Just as his current financial statements on file as president, he lists his income as gross receipts of the clubs with no expenses deducted, not his personal revenue, i.e. the Doral Golf Club loses money every year. He pays out more than he takes in, but he lists the revenue as his income. Amazing in all caps. Thoughts?
Amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, man. That's his style, though. That's Donald Trump. That's always been Donald Trump. The sleazy New York businessman, real estate tycoon, mentored under Roy Cohn. So.
And this confirms Seth Abramson's work of saying that the house was sold in part through money laundered through the Russian oligarch Dmitry Robolev. That was finally proven by this email. So, it is what it is. Beth was right.
Yeah, and Daniel Hopsiker had been saying that for years.
Yep.
Daniel Hopsiker was saying that. And, it kind of ties into the whole Russia collusion stuff that a lot of people, especially in the alternative media, they're like, "Oh, we all knew that the Democrats and the Russia hoax and the Russian collusion, it's been proven false. It's been proven false." I was one of those small voices. I'm like, I don't know if I completely dismiss that. And when I said that, I was laughed off. I'm sure some people are listening right now, and they're probably laughing like, "Oh, he believes that shit." I'm not saying I believe it. I'm also saying I don't completely dismiss it entirely, because that particular business deal, this is what Daniel Hopsiker was saying. It was a massive real estate fraudulent deal. And for what means? Why would you risk so much to perpetuate this fraud? What illicit gains were you out to make? There had to be other ways that this benefited him. You know what I'm saying? So maybe that puts me in that minority position, but I never dismissed it completely, personally speaking.
No, I didn't dismiss Hopsiker, who called out Whitney Webb, by the way, on my show with George from CavDev.org.
And the reason he did it because it's crazy. Hopsiker was out here in Sarasota. This is where I'm at, in Sarasota. Whitney Webb is originally from Sarasota as well. Small world. Yeah. It's pretty wild stuff. So many ties Sarasota to 9/11 as well.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. Everything is connected. Yeah, man. I thought we killed Johnny B. Let people know where they can find you.
Yeah. You can find me. We've read the documents on YouTube. We've read the documents on Patreon and Substack. Thank you for having me on, Wheezy. There's still more information. There'll probably still be more information that'll come out.
We'll do it again, bro.
That was the biggest things that I had saw, and I know you shared the biggest things that you had saw too. And I still don't know what I think about everything. I would say probably the Dmitry Robolev email is probably the most substantive one of things that I can quantify because of our knowledge, like you said, of Hopsiker's reporting and Seth Abramson's reporting and stuff like that, and how we know that Dave Gossman estate, led to the fracturing of their friendship, maybe allegedly, but maybe not. We didn't even get to cover, was he there with Epstein at Thanksgiving? But then there was a lot of pictures and videos that he was not, that he was busy the whole day. Right. So is that email real or not? Right. Even though it was released in the list of emails by the Democrat Oversight Committee. So again, as we've talked about in the show, going either way.
I mean, one thought is that it's all a big psyop. Where Trump and Bill are just laughing at everyone discussing this. Like, hey, I'm gonna say that I did this to you, and everyone's gonna run with it, and they're high-fiving each other. Who knows, man? One thing that my rule of thumb is, if I see it on the mainstream, I take everything with a small pinch of salt. Well, maybe a healthy dosing of salt, because you don't know why you're being presented, whatever is being shown to you or you're hearing about. Why? What's the real reason behind it? You know what I'm saying? So that's something to keep in mind as the madness continues. But yeah, follow my man John Brisson on YouTube, and he's on the Substack as well.
It's covered again, Wheezy. You and I are one of the few that's actually trying to talk about this and tackle it from all angles. So,
yeah. And we view things in a very similar lens. And that's what I like, running things past you, because we do view things in a lot of the similar ways. And then we don't come to these hard conclusions. Like, this is definitely the way it did it. No, we're open-minded. We're like, I feel like this is the case, but it could be this other thing. And that's what I appreciate, man. So many grifters in the space claim to, I have a lock and key on the truth. Follow me. I'm the only one spouting truth. Blah, blah, blah. No, that's nonsense, man. None of us have absolute truth. But I feel we try to be honest about it and as best as we can. And that's why I appreciate you, my man. Thank you so
brother.
much.
Take care. Thank you for having me on.
All right,
Bye,
my man.
everybody.
Take it easy.
God bless.
Yes, sir. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I suppose I could do 30 more minutes. Ashley, if you want to call in, let me know in the live chat. You seem to be pretty knowledgeable on a lot of things. Or anyone else. Maybe, you know what? I'm going to put the Rumble. And if no one hits the Rumble chat in a couple minutes, I will just end the stream. I thought it was killer. It was great. I always love having my buddy John on the show. So if you are on Rumble, I am putting the StreamYard. I'm going to pin it towards the top there. So should pin this message. There we go. Should anyone want to opine? I know someone on Twitter was upset with me, but her profile said MAGA, ultra MAGA, blah, blah, blah. She was super mad. I go, look, don't get mad at me. If you want to discuss it, you can come on my show. I always do this. I do this, not always, but I do it quite a bit, where I invite people that disagree with me to let me hear what they think. If you think I'm wrong about this or that, you thought John said something incorrect, here's your opportunity. Instead of crying on the comments later on. But yeah. Let's see. Oh, okay. Looks like Ashley said she was gonna call in a couple minutes. Yeah, Ashley was the one that did the Vietnam War show. Absolutely crushed and killed. So if you guys missed that, be sure to check it out. Someone on YouTube says, to be fair, Bubba might be Ghislaine's horse and not Bill. Yeah, we covered this at the very beginning, dude. Either way, it's still pretty bad. It might even be worse if it's the damn horse. But yeah, we touched on that earlier on. Let's see who else got some comments. Let's give some shout outs. Miss Cajones, Rob the musician. George was in here earlier, History Man. Ashley's in here. Her name is Think, Change, and Repeat. Talma Terry's up in here. Dusty Dive. And I thought I saw Demelza. And on the YouTube chat, she's another person that's been following me for a long, long time, many years now at this point. So shout out to Demelza. She was on earlier. Yeah, good stuff. I do not have a guest planned up for next weekend. Squeaky's in here. Raz. So Raz, I agree with the sentiment right here. It's all half truths and misdirection. Any real evidence will be buried until the POS, piece of poo-poo, that do this sick things are no longer valuable. Yeah, I agree with you on that. This is why I've been saying I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I believe this. I don't know if I believe that. What's up? AJM 1966. Yeah, it's wild. Can I ask what happened to your concrete job? Oh, okay. Here's a question. Can I ask what happened to your concrete job? I can definitely tell you what happened to my concrete job. I did concrete for a short while. I learned the trade pretty quick, and then I wanted to go back to garbage. Concrete pays well. I let me rephrase that. It can pay well. Before I accepted the job at doing a concrete mixer, I called several companies, and some wanted to pay based on concrete experience, and I found one that paid me off of CDL experience. I already have over 15 years with my CDL, so they paid me top of their wage, and I was making good money. What I didn't like about doing concrete was waking up at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, and then 9 in the morning the next day. Every day was different. There was no set time as to when to wake up. So that's why I no longer did it anymore. And I went back to garbage instead. So we have Ashley here. What's up, Ash? You are muted, I
Testing,
believe.
testing. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I've just been hanging out in the chat today and enjoying this episode and enjoying the chat.
Awesome. Shout out to Nature Boy. I forgot to give him a shout out. Great show, Wheezy. You and John brought the receipts. Hell yeah. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, it's always fun to get together with John. I think really the only thing that we view polar opposite is the religion question. But it just goes to show that's a huge thing, and it could make or break relationships in some cases. And for us, it's not, I mean, obviously we don't see eye to eye on it, but it doesn't tarnish the rest of our relationship. You know what I mean? We get along quite well, and I cherish him as a friend. I can call him up. Hey, you want to play some video games? Hey, what do you think on this? And yeah, I love John.
Yeah, it was a good conversation. It was a good back and forth because there was a lot of interesting dialogue, even though you are on the same page about a lot of things, but the analysis was very good. And I think it's good to leave room for, for we don't know. We don't know what could have been implemented or could have been put out there for us to be fake or to be a false bread trail, a breadcrumb, as it were. And, but it was a great conversation. Very good back and forth. Loved it.
Oh, thank you. But I wanted to get your thoughts, Ashley. I saw you in the live chat. I was watching some of your comments. I was like, whoa, that's you've been following this stuff quite a bit. So what's your take on this week's Epstein news?
So I think that's something I've been trying to keep in mind is what John was saying. He said he doesn't think everything is manufactured. So I think that I can often truly think that what we see basically is manufactured. So my overall take is that maybe it's not, but because of the work that has been done leading up to this point in data collection, in them watching information dissemination, and what we know about the work that they've done with mind control, then I think that even if something comes out organically, that they will be able to manage it in their direction, no matter what. Even if that means putting somebody who is like a mid-level player, like John was saying, he thought that Epstein was sort of like a middle in the hierarchy. I think that they are willing to sacrifice those people. And if you believe in like the bloodline narrative and the generational trauma that we hear about, even in some low-level cases, that it's very likely that they have no problem even sacrificing one of their own for the good of the agenda, whatever that may be. I know a lot of people think that it's as simple as population control, as the digital takeover, as the 500 million population, and maybe that is it. But one of my questions is, if you are a psychopath and you have no concern for the human condition whatsoever, and people's pain and suffering doesn't matter to you, and if you have all of the money, and if you have all of the connections from, let's say, Ivy League schools and secret societies and things like that, and you have all the possessions that you possibly could want, what is left after that? What would you do for fun if you had no conscience, no consequences, and endless money? What would you do? And that's where I think that we come into the treating humans this way of defiling humanity. And then we have this recent story that came out this past week about in the Balkan War in Sarajevo that tourists were paying $90,000 to hunt humans. So that is one story that's in the news, and we know that it's documented in literature. They were showing this, the most dangerous game when I was in the 9th grade. I was like, what, 13 or 14 years old, and they're literally teaching you about human hunting. You
The
know,
Hunger Games.
yes, yes, and so many more of these dystopian type of books. I mean, so I think if we, yeah, exactly, Missy. So we see so many examples. So we have The Most Dangerous Game, we have Hunger Games, we have all of these other dystopian novels. And this is something that I talk to my friend the Wizard about all the time, because a lot of these themes, we know them and we're familiar with them from fiction, from literature. So of course we can't look at that to say that this is proof. But what we can say is that we know that well-connected people have been using their ideas, the fiction, as a means to introduce ideas for predictive programming or priming the pump, as they say. So I always have to wonder, where are these ideas coming from? If it doesn't exist at all, then where is it coming from? So I definitely feel, in my opinion, I wouldn't put anything past these people. I think there's probably a lot that we're missing. Sure, you said in the description of the show 20,000 emails, right? So all of that hasn't been read. But even so, when they're talking about this lower level stuff, they're talking about this documentary, how many people are you bringing, etc. But it has been well established that he is an intelligence asset. So there, even if you read through all the emails, it's so likely that there's so much more of the picture that we are not being shown. And then I go back to what you were saying with John and the possibilities of this situation, because I think there are many. It could be that they are ready to burn him. And Don Jeffries was saying this the other day, that maybe they're done with the Trumpenstein project, as he calls it. Maybe it will be swept under the rug. Maybe there's 10 other agendas that this is going to be used for. So I think it is a wait and see, but none of this stuff surprises me.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's how it is. I'm the same way. When people put too much value, too much stock into these Epstein files getting released or the JFK files getting released, all the good shit was destroyed long ago. It's cartoonish to think you're going to get real good shit on classified docs. They're classified to blackmail for blackmailing, but to expose themselves, you really think they're going to keep that in lock? Here's where we tattle on ourselves. It's cartoonish. You know what I
So
mean?
true.
Like,
So true.
People put too much stock onto this shit. It's not realistic.
You're exactly right. And if we look at, and I'm not a classified documents expert, but I would say if we look at the oldest classified documents, like I'm sure that there's still some stuff from World War II that is still classified, maybe even beyond that. So if these things were not connected,
There's
if they
still
did not matter.
Lincoln stuff is still classified.
Okay. So
160 goddamn years and you still got classified information on that?
right. So why? Right? Because these things are connected, because they matter, because if people got some of these pieces of information, then maybe we would be able to put more pieces of the puzzle together. So I definitely think that that is part of it. And I put this in the chat, but I thought it was really interesting. So there's this book called Family of Secrets that was done by Russ Baker, and he is exposing the Bush family. So a big to-do back in the day was whenever Dan Rathers called into question like George Bush George W. Bush's military service, and there's some sketchy things, and Dan Rather's career supposedly suffered from this. And but there was a lot of effort to sweep that under the rug. And we know that there was a lot of fishy things. There was a lot of weirdness with the election, with the hanging Chads, with the pregnant Chads, with all, and this was your state, Wheezy, it was Florida, that was considered what the entire election hung in the balance based on what the ballots were doing in Florida. And I think if we went back and looked at that, there's a lot of psyop elements in there as far as like mail-in voting, digital voting, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so this guy was also looking at the history of the Bush family, Prescott Bush. These guys are all bonesmans. We know that. The Yale connections, the oil connections with Zapata Oil, the intelligence connections through the CIA. And Russ Baker, the author, was speaking to somebody because he made a connection with a former intelligence officer by the name of Thomas Devine. And so he tracks down Thomas Devine, and supposedly Russ Baker's work is the reason that Thomas Devine ended up having a Wikipedia page. And he's trying to get him to speak about his experience with the Bush family, which was not going to happen. And Thomas Devine told him that. And Russ Baker said something to him, and he said, well, I read in this government document, and I'm paraphrasing, but Thomas Devine after that said, that's the problem with you people. You believe what you read in government documents. So that has been something that I have been really thinking about ever since I saw that. And what is the capability to even manufacture and or obscure and or change government documents? What accountability is there? And back to what we were talking about with Vietnam, look at how many crimes against humanity were perpetrated there, and nobody was held accountable for what happened. So I think we always have to question and just try to use our discernment as best as we can.
Yeah, I agree. That's the biggest thing. The only issue with discernment is John and I were talking about, shout out to John, he's still listening. He just texted me. Is AI with all this? How AI affects all this? Because you could be seeing something and your discernment could be on point, but if it's fake, if it's not even real, then what then? It's truly interesting times to be alive, and I don't know where we are heading. What are your thoughts?
I'm having cat drama, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that AI is going to be I don't know, like in the Seattle Seahawks stadium, not that I believe that professional sports is real, but they call the crowd the 12th man, right? Because it is something that is unique to that particular stadium that makes a difference in games, an intangible. And I think that that is exactly what AI is going to be serving towards, that we don't even know the full ramifications of AI. And maybe we'll never know because of the age that we're living in. But I absolutely do think that it is going to be an important factor in the powers that shouldn't be ability to manipulate the narrative. And the other thing that I wanted to point out is that in a lot of modern day, like we're talking about predictive programming, it's already out there about fake AI videos having real life consequences. And there's a movie, I feel like it may be called Mountainhead. It's on HBO, but it's about these billionaire tech executives. And one of them has an app that is, I mean, basically it sounds like it's Twitter, where people are able to make fake AI videos and other people see it and believe it and react. So it's causing essentially chaos in the streets, pandemonium, war, etc. So I think that when we see these ideas being inserted into the, into the mainstream, that we need to be on the lookout to know that there is going to be something to do with that coming up. And it's not just that one movie either that I've seen it. I've seen it in other places of someone, a billionaire tech guy getting killed because his app ruined people's lives because of the ability to fake videos, things like this. So I absolutely think that it's going to be important, and I think that it's going to be set up intentionally for us to be confused. I think they're already laying the groundwork for that. The narrative managers.
Yeah, it's dark times for sure. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. It I know you brought up John. Not thinking everything is manufactured. I think along more similarly to you, Ashley, in that I do think a lot of things, not everything possibly, but I probably, if I were to lean one, more or less, I'd say more more often than not, things are manufactured and
Yeah. Well, I've
not as
talked
they
about this
appear.
before, I think. So there's a lot of people probably aware of him, Legal Man. He's the guy that played Mr. Jones in Jones Plantation.
Yeah.
And he calls it the 179-degree club. So basically, anything that's out in mainstream media for longer than an hour, you should look 179 degrees in the other direction for what is the actual truth of the story, but that it's there for a purpose. And I do subscribe to that, although we have friends who do challenge that, right? And we don't believe necessarily or subscribe to everything that they're saying, but I want to take what they're saying seriously. And I want to do my due diligence and consider what they're saying, because I think that it's important, first of all, for us to hear different opinions. I think it's important for dialogue. And if we can't be challenged in our thinking, then I think that says more about us than the person that's challenging us, right? And it's just exactly like you wanting to have people that disagree with you to call into the show. And it's not to troll them. It's not to humiliate them. It's to have a conversation and for them to be able to express what they think and have dialogue. So I do think that's important. So my idea that you and I both believe is that most of what we see, most major events, most stories are manufactured, have been challenged, and I'm trying to think about that, and I'm trying to think about other things that I believe support what we're saying, that it is manufactured. And I do think that there's a lot to point to that. I think we have, if we were to, like Seven Seas does the Lombardi style map based on the artist Mark Lombardi, who did like these 9/11 connections, and he ended up dying before he had a chance to debut his work. Then Richard Grove does something similar with the mind map, but basically making all these connections, and then Seven Seas does it. So if we were to look at all of these people and like what he's doing, and to see all of the secret societies, the groups like what John talks about, the CMP all the time, all of these other institutes, I would think that we would see a ton of overlap. Or if we made it into a Venn diagram, there's going to be a ton of overlap in those circles. So I think that tells us something. And then I think that we need to ask ourselves, like, well, what is that telling us? What are the odds of something organic happening when we have this many people with these connections who are in positions of power, and not just positions of power like traditionally, like in politics, but in everything, right? In positions of power in tech, surveillance, in the military, in the medical industry, in the food industry, in media, all of these things, they're connected everywhere. So what are we to make of that?
I don't know. It befuddles me when I really start to think about it.
That's the word of the day, befuddle. I like it.
Yeah, it gets overwhelming when I really start to think about it. So I try not to, consciously not to think about it. Just take day by day and take it that way.
Yeah. And I think that we have to balance it, right? So people that care about what is going on in the situation that we find ourselves in, I don't know that we're ever going to be able to fully disconnect. Like, you may be able to disconnect in some ways, but I don't know that you really can ever turn it off, like thinking about these things, making the connections, wondering what's true. And maybe that's part of an op for us is that even if we question what we're being presented, that it takes up space in our mind, and maybe that is part of it. So I think you do have to try to find a balance and acknowledge, like, if you're kind of if this is what you do, if this is your hobby to pursue this, that yes, it is, but then there's other things that I still need to pursue in my life that bring me joy and that are fun, right? Like you had your UFC show last night, doing other things that you enjoy with people that you like.
Yeah. Yeah. If you get too enveloped in this area, it's easy to get overwhelmed. And so you do need to kind of break out of it. Watch some jokes. Some people get too rigid as well. Like, oh no, I can't. We absolutely can't do this. They almost get fanatical and rigid with their way. Like, oh, that person was on Epstein Island, so I no longer find their comedy hilarious. If it's still funny, I'm still gonna laugh at the goddamn joke.
Well, that's true. And the other thing is that you don't. I mean, maybe. Okay, if somebody is talking like that, then I would say, okay, that's fine. But you don't know these people. Are there any entertainers that you don't think that there's some suspicious something going on with their background? We don't know. We don't know. So if people are practicing purity in that way, which is fine, I would support that. But I would say, so you don't subscribe to so you completely have gotten rid of your television? Like, where's the line with this kind of thing?
Yeah. And that's where discernment comes in, because everyone's going to have their own line. Like for me, I'm not as rigid when it comes to that stuff. I try to recognize that everyone is different. What works for me may not necessarily work for that person, or maybe a bunch of other people. I feel that I have accepted that I am a little different from a lot of people, and it can be it can be weird for some people, but I've accepted myself that I do think differently from people. Some people may look at me as weird for the way I conduct myself or the way I view things, and I guess when I was younger, I may have cared a little bit more. Now that I'm older, I don't give a shit. This is me. This is how I am. This is how. That's not to excuse, certain bad qualities. I've tried to improve on all these things, but this is me at the end of the day, and I have to learn to love myself. That's one thing that I've been learning, and that's what everyone should do. Not just me. You need to love yourself, because it's not a narcissistic thing. It's not an egotistical thing. When you start to love yourself, you can then radiate that love back upon others, because now you respect yourself and love
you
yourself.
can accept it from other people. So I think there's something like, if you continually have an issue with yourself for X, Y, and Z reasons, or you're in some sort of self-loathing spiral, it actually creates a barrier for you to have relationships, healthy giving and receiving relationships with other people. And I'm very convinced that that is one of the tricks to life, is finding people that is a give and take. It's not just one way, but people that fill your cup and you fill their cup as well. And if you are in a self-loathing mindset, or you have all these issues with I mean, I have issues with myself. I'm trying to do the same thing, like that you're talking about, work on all these things. But I find that as I am working on my health in that way, that my relationships that I have in my life are also healthier, and I do have more in the tank to deal with other people and to interact with them. But that still doesn't it doesn't address what you're saying, that it is difficult to be aware of all of this stuff, or so much of this stuff, and then trying to interact with people who aren't aware. It can make it challenging. I feel sometimes like I'm in the closet.
Yeah, I've learned to temper that down, especially now after doing it for a few years. I think when you're brand new, you want to shout it out to the world, and then you don't realize that in the eyes of most of those people, you are crazy and outlandish. And then as you do it for a little bit longer, you learn to unleash who you can, what information you can with this person, or maybe that's a person that I should just keep my mouth shut and just talk normie stuff 100%. So it's, again, it comes down to discernment. History, man. What's up, History?
How's it going, Wheezy?
I'm all right, man. Good to hear from you. What's up, buddy?
Not much. Just been, paying attention to what you guys are saying. I just hopped in now. So,
are you the same History from the Telegram group? Oh, shit.
Yeah, I am.
Sorry, I kicked you an accident. I just moved my keyboard. It was not on purpose.
All good.
Yeah, man. That's cool. Good, man. What are your thoughts?
I just literally re-hopped in now. So what were you guys talking about?
Just talking about discernment and how to navigate, because things are wild. You got AI, you've got all kinds of things going on.
So. Oh yeah, no doubt. I agree. Well, I agree. Discernment's very important, especially nowadays with all the psyops and shit going on. So that's definitely something to be aware of. So, for example, I was on SNA yesterday, and as you know what that is, right?
Yeah. Saturday Night Anarchy.
Yes.
Boo.
I don't know about that.
For me, it is. Boo.
Okay. Well,
yeah. I'll use your name. I have my history with them that I won't get into, but that's it. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Well, so basically, Miriam Hanine was on, and she is a hell of a character. And how am I going to say it?
I don't want to turn this into that. Like, if we can keep it to like Epstein stuff or anything related.
No, I understand. Yes, sorry, I don't want to turn. I want to use this. I want to say discernment, because we were talking about somebody named Sabrina Wallace, and I'm sure you guys have heard of her.
I've heard her name, but I don't know much about her work.
Okay, so she extensively covers the entire biodigital convergence, and actually Carl in the chat knows exactly who she is, and Deebu Masan as well.
Yeah, Seven Seas has mentioned
Seven Seas is
her
fantastic. To me. That's my boy right there. Not gonna lie.
That's my boy.
I also like him too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna get him on at some point, maybe next week.
Yeah, that'd be great. I always enjoy watching the two of you together. It's really phenomenal podcast when you guys are together on the same, show. And,
thank you.
Yeah. So Sabrina Wallace, basically, she talks about the whole biodigital convergence. When I mentioned her to Miriam simply just started talking about saying that she's a psyop and blah blah blah, and she's all the information that she puts out is all coordinated and it's all fucking. And I'm like, nah, I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right, maybe you're not, but this is related to discernment, because she was basically trying to tell everybody to be discerning when it comes to people who have a reach like that, and that she tried to invite her on a few years ago, but she refused to come on the show. And before she was more well known, she thinks that she's being positioned now to like be an authority voice, like on this whole biodigital convergence. So I don't know. So it's important to be discerning about everybody, is my point.
Yeah, you can't trust anyone. I'm constantly saying that. I even tell people, don't trust me. Just because you hear me say it doesn't make it. Like, I've listened to some shows that I've done, like the next day, especially if I got a guest that's dropping stuff that I never heard. I want to catch back and see if I caught anything. Mm-hmm. And there's been times where I hear myself and I misspeak. I'll say a name and I didn't catch it at the time, but I say a name and I make mistakes. Honest mistakes, but everyone makes mistakes. We're humans. Now some people make mistakes purposely, and some people do them on accident. But the thing is, you need to use your discernment as best as possible. and who's out there trying to be the next Joe Rogan, who's out there trying to be sincere and genuine, what's people's motives. And so when I say that, I'm not saying that, oh, look, I'm the only one that's honest and true. No, hell no. I just told you, I get shit wrong all the time. Don't trust anyone.
No,
that
I
includes
know.
myself. Question everyone. If someone is telling you not to question them, I'm going to question you even more. You should be able to question everyone. That's the way I look at it.
I agree fully.
Yeah.
Fully agree.
I agree. I mean, we do want to use our discernment, and we all have people that we like who do podcasting or who are in the alternative media. And I think that whatever your definition of is acceptable to you. For example, if somebody does have a big platform, and we've talked about this, if you have a big platform, you're claiming to be organic, but you know how difficult it is for other people who are organic or who are coming from a similar place, supposedly, how much they struggle to get ahead, or like if someone has a really nice studio. I'm not saying that this necessarily means X, Y, and Z, but I think it's worth us considering. And it's worth us considering, I know that there are some people in alternative media who are funded by the wellness company, and Amazing Polly has done a lot of work on putting together information for the narrative network, right? These people that are funded by the wellness company. And then we have that is in like the people that are involved at the top is like Foster Coulson and Eric Prince of Blackwater, who trained James O'Keefe and for whatever Project Veritas. So the point is that I think the main thing for us is to be discerning, as we're talking about, to ask questions, like what Weezy's saying. Never 100% just trust someone because you think that they're trustworthy in this environment. The reason that it matters is because the spoken word is influential. Even if we don't think that we are being influenced, we are being influenced. So that's why it's so important for us to be discerning about what we, take on, what we think, what we agree with. So I think it's worth asking questions and looking at, are they sponsored? Are they funded? Where's that money coming from? How much potential does this sponsorship or whatever we want to say, or this appearance on a show, how much sway does this have or impact does this have for this person financially or otherwise for moving forward with their career or whatever you want to say. So
I agree.
Good stuff. Well, I'm hitting up on 3 hours and I got to work tomorrow. I want to thank Ashley for hopping on in. I truly valued your insights. You were in the live chat pretty much the entire show, dropping truth bombs in the live chat. And so I was like, ooh, if anyone could call in, I definitely wanted it to be you. So thank you, Ashley. And thank you, History, for hopping
Absolutely.
in
My
a little
pleasure.
late. Yeah, I'd keep going, but it is Sunday and I gotta work tomorrow. I gotta wake up at 3 a.m.
Totally get it. Damn, 3 a.m. Wow.
Yeah, I'm used to it. So,
jeez.
But I try to go to bed a little early.
Thanks. And just want to shout out the people in the chat. It was a lot of fun today in chat. The conversation was great. And thanks for letting me come on and chat with you. I always like talking to you.
Tell people where they can find you, Ashley. I want to
They
keep
can find
keeping you
me
up.
at Nights of the Storm on Saturday. We're live streaming over on Rumble. And then you could find me on Twitter at think_change_2. And you can email me at thinkchangerepeat@gmail. And be nice.
Yeah, be nice. That's awesome. Yeah. And as soon as you decide if you're going to start a podcast or not, let me know and we'll do another show so we can help you build it up.
Yeah, we still need to do
they will come.
We need to do a second part on Vietnam anyway. There's still a lot more to cover.
I really actually enjoyed the first part. So
thank you.
I have a listener. I'm sure he'll listen to it. Matt on Spotify. He's gonna email me an outline and he wants to do a show. So once he emails me and gets me a date, I'll get with you, Ashley, and it'll be a good part 2, I think. And
yeah, Excellent.
balance things around it, because apparently he's gone super, super deep into Vietnam, which is awesome. So yeah, it was a great show. And I even name dropped you yesterday, Ashley, on when we were doing the NASA smoking guns, because once I started understanding how dirty Vietnam was, I'm like, oh man, this is exactly why they would fake the moon landings, because the atrociousness that was happening during that time.
This
That
is true.
seems to get
That's a-
overlooked.
That's a
quite
great
bit.
point. And I've been continuing to study since we talked, and I keep reading things and I'm like, oh my God. Like it just, the shock knows no end of what happened there. It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll definitely have to do a part 2 on that. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming out. Thank you, everyone in the live chat. And thank you. And participate in the poll question. It should be a funny one on Spotify this week. Leave your comments. Much love, hugs,
All right, man.
and kisses
Take care.
to all.